Good evening. Welcome to Around the World with Dee and Friends. Tonight, I'm happy to have my good friend Denarde English here with me, and we're going to be discussing the India protest, Brazil-Argentina, the beef issue, the war on the left, and Peru, the inauguration of Fujimori, and then in New York City, the next candidate, I guess, what Altman is that his name? Oh, Ackman, that wants to run for New York City mayor. And I'll hand the show over to Denarde. What do you say, Denarde? I got to share around too, so it's good to
No
have you.
problem. No problem. I'm always happy to be here.
So, so have you been, Denarde?
Pretty good so far. Yes, and just trying to get through trying to make sure I get through the day. Now I'm doing great.
Yeah, it's and plus, just world news is just each day you don't know what you're going to wake up to.
Definitely.
Okay, so sharing the show around right now so we can get people in the room before we really start talking about the topics. So I'll be sharing here. Um, what was I gonna say? Okay, I'm sharing right now. Um, and I got to contact. Harsh may be joining us. He said he was, but then he gets busy with things, and sometimes time just passes. But he's going to make an effort to be here tonight. So,
Uh, mm,
okay. Oh yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. I think I got to. Wayne sent me a message, so I wonder if he wants to pop on. Um, yeah, I have to look at that too. Let me see, Wayne Santoban. In Australia, he's starting the new day, and we're ending our day. Okay, I thought I saw Wayne was sending me something. Oh, yeah, he wants to come on. Yeah, can come on if you want to send me a link. Yes. Yeah, let me send to Wayne. Yeah, because I was in the middle of doing something else when I saw that go across my screen. So let me send something over to Wayne. I'll link over, and then he'll be talking before we get the show really started. Okay, Wayne. Here we go. I'll be happy. Okay, he was mentioning, can I come on? I want to send the link again. The Egypt port has been hit drones. I saw something about that.
mm,
And then Trump also starting again the war where Iran is concerned. It's interesting. It's right after Netanyahu visits. There seems to be a pattern there. Okay, I'm sharing the show out right now, everybody. So doing that as people start coming in. Okay.
I think it's the best thing. I think the best way to start off. I think the best way to start off is the basically the solidarity between the bipartisan war on the left.
Okay.
Because if you been watching social media, looking at what's happening on social media, like instinct, like things like the Instagram or Twitter, you can find a mountain of videos of basically class solidarity between the wealthy liberals and the wealthy fascists, who both feel threatened by the rise of social, by the basically the rise of social. I won't even call it socialism. It's basically progressivism and democratic socialism, and it feels like they're more hysterical than ever before, and that's because they're trying to whip people in basically into a frenzy before Tuesday's primary, where multiple socialist adjacent candidates are going to be facing off against their establishment opponents, including Abdul Al Said in Michigan, and Donovan McKinney, and Kyle Blomquist, and Kashama Sawant, Corey Bush. I could go on, and there, and that's just to name a few. So if if they're going to be able to get you to basically to second guess your support for these so-called extremists, I did an air quote there, and
Hmm.
they're going to convince people that they're to basically trying to convince people to change their votes and stop the dam from bursting a for a little bit longer.
Mm.
Yeah, and and look, I don't blame them for being afraid, because the success of three Mandami's back candidates was able to undeniable was an undeniable turning point in American politics.
Right.
But if socialists get another three victories on Tuesday, or possibly 4 or 5, maybe even 6 in a single night, I I think that the thing that what that think that most people would begin to feel like socialism is unstoppable,
Right.
and which will create basically a bandwagon effect that ultimately seals the fate of the establishment. So it's basically a make or break, which is why centrists and fascists are basically teaming up, both shrieking louder than ever before. But regardless of the outcome, um, it's not going to change the fact that our country right now is at a crossroads. Our political establishment has basically has in the most simplified fashion failed us.
Yes.
Hmm.
And the thing
And
too.
they oh sorry you
No, go on. You can go on.
and they failed us so badly that and I would say I was going to say and make it more described. They failed us so badly they made the Titanic look like a normal voyage. I mean,
Yeah.
they failed us so badly that the only viable form of politics right now is basically populism, like it or not. But the question is, given the choice between right wing pseudo populism in the form of fascist demagoguery and left wing populism, populism in the form of class warfare and socialism. And which side are we going? That's basically the choice. Which side are we going to choose?
And you know something? When we're looking at the future, because we're seeing how advanced China is, China was always looking at production, improving for all different sectors. That China, we're seeing that the democratic socialism of China, there's certain things you socialize, other things, you have your competition with. That China has moved forward, and we are so behind with everything, technologically. So the U.S., the only way they can advance, or we can advance our nation, is through democratic socialism.
Oh,
Exactly.
we're still trying to save this country.
Well, if they want to advance instead of whining and bitching about it and all the,
I
creating
don't th-
wars.
I don't think America's gonna be saved at this point. It was nice knowing y'all. So I'm just gonna
Now,
enjoy life.
Yeah. Hey,
No.
Wayne. Wayne and Harsh are both
Hi,
here.
Wayne
hi.
Santelbaum, that's not a knife, that's a knife. Holy crikeys.
um,
Sprechen Sie Deutschen, Deutschen.
Shabbat,
I've
hey, I
just
forgot. We gotta have her like regular greeting. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat Shalom or Inshallah.
Hey, Denard, how can you be upset about Israel when we're the reason people like you have rights?
oh, is that
Listen, guys.
is that the reason?
Listen, guys.
Is that the reason my family can't is struggling to get a paycheck because their taxes is going to you bombing and raping children? Hmm?
You know, why do you have to be such an anti-Semite?
Hey,
You
Don't
keep
you
listen.
saying that
understand this was promised to us 3,000 years ago?
you keep saying that word. I don't think you know what it means anymore.
I know it. I love using that term. What are you talking about? We know exactly what it means.
I've just
Sure, yeah,
discovered
sure it
something
is.
really. I've just discovered something really
Oh my
interesting.
god.
I've shared it on World's
Mm.
Greatest Mysteries. I've discovered just on Threads that found the MH370 after 11 years missing at the bottom of the ocean, Indian Ocean. They found it intact at the bottom of the Indian Ocean.
You know, Wayne, why do you keep digging up our secrets? You wish you and Denard would be more grateful
Sorry.
for us. Why do you keep digging it up? You know, we left it in the bottom of the Indian Ocean for a reason, but you and Denard just can't leave well enough alone. It's, you know what's so
I
funny
got,
about that accent? It's like the new Indian accent. Like before to break
I,
the ice, you'd be like, "Hello, I can't go like this. This is a problem."
I
And
really
now you're
very
like,
good.
"Well,
Very.
Shabbat Shalom. You know, this is another Holocaust."
I was in. I was. We were
No, but
just.
I might actually I might
Baruch
make
and
money of this.
I.
People are going to see my post that I've discovered MH370 and they might, I don't know, I might get a reward or something. I might,
You know.
I, I might be,
Uh,
I might get interviewed or anything, you know?
yeah.
We were just getting we just got started. We were just talking about the bipartisan war on the left. Hmm?
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Dee and I were talking about this earlier on the phone. It's kind of, I mean, there's been a bipartisan war on the actual left for at least the last 20 years. Like
Yeah,
Yeah.
we've been having this issue since, not to sound like an old man, Denard, but since people like you were in diapers. So I mean, you
well,
know,
I was just
I mean,
saying. I was just going to point out that yeah, we seen even though we've seen the right like flip freaking the heck out as we kind of expect them to do. We're the Democratic Party base. We're seeing the Democratic Party base increasingly choosing the side with socialists because they want to stop the fascists and they want to because the socialists are um actually um campaigning on actual means like universal health care, affordable housing,
I mean,
basically improving their lives, and no more in neoliberal incrementalism. It's,
well,
it,
I
it,
mean, well, I mean
Hey,
that's
can I
great.
ask
They're
a
finally
question?
doing that, but they've only had like 60 years to get it right. I mean,
yeah,
my God,
Yeah.
they were supposed to campaign on that crap when Obama was running for president.
yeah,
He
and
was the one who ran as a far leftist who was supposed to give the people universal health care and free education and all that crap, and he ended up just
Mm.
implementing Mitt Romney's health care plan. So it's like, and then
and
ever
No,
since
no,
then, it's just been a mess.
yeah, I was
I
gonna
was going to
and
ask
as
what happened to the Tea Party? The Tea Party. The
hmm?
Tea Party. You need an alternative to the Democrats and the they're both of the same. You know, they're both as bad as each other. I mean, it's
Yeah,
obvious that the Democrats are going to have the control of the House, and in the midterms. But you need a viable alternative, don't you? Do
Yeah.
well, I
Okay.
mean,
you need some new blood into your system?
Well, let's just listen
well,
to what Donardi's talking about now with the elections. He's talking about the upcoming elections.
Yeah,
right.
I
Yeah,
understand.
with
Yeah.
them, with their upcoming, and right now people are really focusing on the election happening in August 4th, which is good. I believe it's the Michigan primary, which many people it's
Oh,
basically a make or break, because right now it seems because right now people are trying to are basically choosing between Abdul Said, who is a more on the left side of the Democratic Party, or Haley Stevens, that weirdo centrist who once shouted that she wants to see Israel in her dreams.
Yeah, she's taking
Whatever the
millions from
freak
APAC.
whatever the freak that even means.
Yeah, I don't think you want to know the answer to that question. But
Yeah,
no, I mean, it is kind of sad that Abdul Sayed's already lost one time to a freaking neoliberal and Gretchen Whitmer, and then now he's running against another one. So I mean, good luck to him if he wins. But yeah,
I
no,
think
it's getting to the point where it's like I hate to sound like country Joe Logan, but he always quote Mark Twain saying, "Well, they let us. Well, if voting mattered, they wouldn't let us vote in the first place."
I
Like,
think
and I'm starting to believe that considering how terrible these options always are.
the election in Michigan back in 2018. I think it was a different climate for the Democratic Party, but I think
Yeah.
the Democratic Party, but but now it's much more different. Um, sorry, I got something caught in my throat. And we're saying, but despite, even though the voters are basically moving to the left, the politician some and we're seeing that some politicians are basically either struggling to or outright refusing to, because some Democratic Party politicians, as well as liberal anti-Trump Slav tubers, are temporarily teaming up people they supposedly hate it the most, which is fascists, to defeat the socialists, because the threat of communism to them is a greater concern than the clear and present danger poses by fascists. But for the record, if you're worried about communism, and the fascists are in fact in control of the entire country, your brain is broken. Full stop.
Mhm. Yeah, Trump today said that, how war is so important, that, the stuff with social programs, daycare, money for daycare and Medicaid, Medicare, all that stuff's got to go back to the states. There's 50 states there. They have to raise their taxes, and, they got to take care of that stuff.
Yeah,
Like, the war's more important. Screw everybody else.
yeah. I mean,
Mm.
yeah. I mean, I'm just, and it really rattles my mind. Like, if liberals more concerned is the fear is mostly is communism, when the fascists who we were supposed to be against are currently in power, then their brains broken. If we can't even raise the bare minimum wage in this country, I don't think that communism is necessarily right around the corner. Call me crazy, but I just feel like that doesn't seem plausible if in the near future. I'm skeptical about whether or not basic social democracy is even possible in this country in the next 100 years, given that we're basically given up and regressive are and, given up and regressive our political and look at how regressive our political system really is.
Hmm.
Well, the good news for everybody in this situation is that we're already in year 250 of this quote unquote constitutional republic slash democracy. So, I mean, in another 50 years, this shit's going to collapse by then. probably if not sooner. So,
Yeah,
and
it's
then he
got
could build something else.
Well, the
Yeah,
climate could collapse
this
before
is
then.
this is trend, like this is I've seen this trend of empires only not be able to last more than 250 years.
Well, we're definitely on that path.
Definitely.
Abs-
And I think the most notable person I've seen that's basically using the same right wing talking points from no talking points to basically scare voters into not voting for socialist candidates. It's people like David Packman, and David Packman doesn't seem to share the same sympathy, given how he basically took a you can find a picture of him with that podcaster shaking hands with Joe Biden. The man who basically perpetrated that genocide against the Palestinian people. And before that, back in October of 2023, David Packman lambasted Rashida Tlaib for daring to claim that Israel bombed the hospital and suggested that she should take responsibility and delete that tweet. But further into the genocide, after hospital bombings became a routine phenomenon for Israel, David Packman decided to just never mention the subject again. And his own audience wasn't happy about that. They were angered by his genocide coverage and the genocide denial coverage, and they're up because they thought that his progressive values were logically extended to the Palestine. But that seemingly wasn't the case. So I think that he's using socialism, if I had to guess, as a synonym for anti-Zionism, because it's much easier to criticize the same people you already don't like under the guise of their economic policy than it is to criticize them directly for opposing a genocide. That's indefensible. That's an indefensible position to have. Nobody wants to be on the side of the country committing a freaking genocide. And if you respond in a way that legitimizes or defends it in any way, shape, or form, you're going to get a lot of pushback from progressive audience, and rightfully so, might I add. And look,
Well, Denali, there's a lot of pushback coming from China now because of the tariffs that Trump's put on China. I had a very interesting political commenter talking to Rachel Blevins the other day. She's down in Austin, in Texas, and I follow her. And this commentator on the show was saying that if he doesn't take off the taxes, there's Xi Jinping probably won't even come to be wined and dined in the state banquet in September. He'll just snub Trump. That's the impression I got.
yeah, what I'm saying, and it seems like we're seeing a lot of these, liberal politicians and liberal podcasters and centrist podcasters. It seems by their own logic and standards that 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 they're willing to they were rather cater to the right rather than actually evolve, and seeing them aligning with fascists and coincidentally saying the same thing that they're saying about the extremism that we see from the socialist left. It's just there's a literal, you can see a clear disconnect, right?
Yeah.
But again, I don't know what's in these people's hearts and what's in their minds, but it's hard to believe that that we got David Packman sending that angry emails that got David Packman. I don't think this whole scenario that David Packman got angry emails from DSA members, which led him to turn on the entire DSA movement. I don't think that. I think I think he got some angry emails from progressives and people who watch his podcast and were upset about his views on when it came to Israel. But I don't think that's I don't think but I think there's some huge lot of lies there. But
Mm.
having said that, I think he is correct to conflate socialism with anti-Zionism
Hmm.
because even if the two aren't ex, 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 inextricably linked, the same motivation that drive someone towards socialism are the same motivation that's also drove people towards anti-Zionism. I, for one, I would say I would consider myself a socialist. I also consider I for one am a proud anti-Zionist because I believe
Mm.
in equity and human rights, and also because I don't think that you can achieve these democratic ideals under an apartheid ethno state. But some liberals will oppose the socialist left because of their foreign policy, right? And they're going to align with fascists and support them over socialists because, well, they don't agree with their foreign policy. Some are going to oppose them for different reasons because they're different. They threaten their wealth and power. But un, the underlying reasons why they oppose socialists have the same have the same exact root. Socialists fundamentally threaten the status quo that they all desperately want to protect. But the good news is that it's a free that it's a free country, and that they are more than welcome to compete with us in democratic primaries and in the marketplace of ideas. But and that's why we're seeing so many successes, like we saw in New York, and in Colorado, and possibly and possibly in Florida, and hopefully, and we're going to see this. We're going to have to see in Michigan. We're going to have to see. Um, but all I ask is that these people drop this phony BS and just be honest about why they actually hate socialists. It's not because we're authoritarian or extremists. They know they know full well that they're smart. They're smarter than that. They're smarter than that.
Well,
The,
actually, it's democratic socialism people are talking more about. You
yeah,
know, the capitalism for some things, and you know, public funding. Socialism. For other.
yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's like I just wish they'd be honest. It's not because they're authoritarian or extremists as as they're trying to fearmonger the audience for
Mhm.
which it's because we fundamentally believe that all human rights should be equal and all fact of life, and they don't. They want to uphold the current system of exploitation, inequality, and abuse. And since it looks like they look like crap. They look like monsters just admitting that they have to cloak their argument in fear mongering and concern trolling to make democratic socialists look like they're the bad guy. But 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 I would say don't let them fool you. The only people who should actually be afraid of socialists or democratic socialists are the oligarchs who want to continue to hoard their wealth at the expense of everyone else.
Right, and in New York City, that's the thing. A lot of people are looking at Mandani in a positive way. Fox News, their audience, some of the replies there, they noticed, I guess, when they post stuff on their website or whatever, there's this positive reaction in polls that we're taking to Mandani because they're actually hearing what he's doing, they're seeing the reaction. So completely different. It's because they don't know. They listen to Fox News, and like you said, all the oligarchs that keep putting it down, putting down democratic socialism, and keep saying this crazy capitalism is great. The people are like, no, no, no. They're seeing in their own lives. The Gilded Age was not a good time, and that's what these oligarchs want to go back to.
Exactly. What any comments, Harsh?
Regarding
I said any comments.
regarding what?
About the about this about what about the what I just said and or what Dolores said.
About India?
We're not
No,
on.
we're actually going to talk about that next. But I was wondering what was going to take what we said about people going moving to the left and people don't want to go back to the status quo.
I mean, I've been hearing about this for at least 20 years, ever since I was able to vote. The question is, when is that ever going to happen? Because, I mean, I was talking to her about this. I mean, I've been hearing this at least since Obama started running for office. You got to move to the left, move to the left, move to the left, and it just doesn't never happen. So, I mean, if it
Right,
happens, it's great. If it's not, I kind of out of it. So,
right. Because I was when I grew up, like my father worked for the union. There was a union. You had a lot of people work for the union, and there was and it was a different time. A lot of people's their mothers were home, stayed home, and just needed one income. It wasn't if you had two incomes, it was really like more like a choice. Um, so I'd seen the changes. Like when Reagan came in, and then going into when Clinton. Clinton was like the neoliberalism wasn't standing by the unions and the typical stuff that was the Democrats stood by. So you saw them shedding away the Democrats and I mean things that Democrats stood for and why people were voting Democrat. So we saw it starting, we saw it with Clinton, where Democrats were concerned and just kind of consistently wanting to move to the right. Um, and then, Obama as well, moving to the right and then the DNC then too, still thinking that they can convince people, convince Republicans to come over to the Democrats. Oh, the Republicans are going too far to the right. Like the Republicans are going too far to the right, but we're not as far as they are. Come join us. And they see that doesn't work. And they've been, like we said, shitting on the progressives, started shitting on their base. Why be a Democrat? If you want to be a Republican, be a Republican. Don't try to change the Democratic Party from within. That's the problem. Is just changing. Wanting to move the Democrats to the right. It's like be a Republican if you want to be to the right. And even the Republicans used to not be so far to the right. They were more libertarian. And then what was it? The Ronald Reagan Revolution. We're going to get the social conservatives in there.
Hmm.
Both parties are a mess.
Yeah, and the fact that these are that that basically were the party is they basically solidified. I would say the two parties basically solidified their position as basically the only party viable, and that's basically in the mindset like you have to choose between basically between crap and crap light, like there's a consequences of having being a big tent party because you're gonna have a lot of infighting. We're seeing that already in the Democrat, not in as well in the Democratic Party, as and now we're seeing that more in especially in the Democratic National Committee, the committee's leadership with now calls for their current DNC chair, Ken Martin, to basically resign. And Kevin Martin to
Right.
resign. Hmm?
Yeah. What was I going to say? And what really gets me too with the Democrats when Obama was in office, we really saw, like I said, the one thing was the health care issue, and the importance of the Supreme Court with the judges and the Democrats. They had the opportunity to where Roe v. Wade was concerned, numerous times to I forget the term, that it could not be overturned, and they never did it. They used it as a fundraising, and it's like the same thing with healthcare for all. It's all used for fundraising. They never stamp things, when they have the time period to do it. So a lot of things came to light when Obama was in office.
Definitely.
Evelina's here. She says hi all. Kathleen's here. Welcome rain, Arkansas Creekside. Okay. Um, Good to see you. And let me see what else is being said down here. Evelina says, funny how being called a liberal is a slur today. It seemed like it was the thing to be not long ago. I know.
But yeah. So let's move on to India.
Yes.
So as I'm sure people are aware, there is a massive there was a student-led protest, Gen Z protest in India, which resulted in the resignation of the education minister.
Hmm.
I'm sure. And I was Harsh. Do you like to want to comment on that?
Harsh?
Yes.
I was saying that I was saying that this Gen Z movement has led to the resignation of the education minister. It was been that for those who don't know, the movement is called the cockroach
Yes,
movement.
it is.
Yes, it was named in response to the Chief Justice of India's Supreme Court,
Yeah,
or
the
the
BJP party, yes.
comparing, and the I believe it's the education minister comparing the country's unemployed youth to parasites and cockroaches, which resulted in a massive student uprising, and directly in response to the leaking of medical entrance exams by corrupt government officials. The leaks meant 2 million students who that took the high stakes exams, which became a symbol of government corruption and incompetence. Protesting in India comes with risk at the protest last week, due to state suppression of the peaceful as state suppression of the peaceful protests intensified. And any comment on that, Harsh? Or do you want
Well,
to
I
add any
mean,
details?
you know what's crazy about this whole situation? I was mentioning this yesterday with Dolores. It's kind of nuts how, that's kind of nuts how some, piece of crap like minister, leaks an exam paper to a bunch of students, and the students get upset because there's cheating. And the next thing you know, now we're debating whether or not the university was built illegally. But I don't even fucking know where to begin with any of this. But yeah, the education system has been a mess for a long time. It really has.
Then what do you think? And one of the I was going to point out the one of the demands that the student protests pushed for was the resignation of the interior minister. Um,
Correct.
yes, the interior minister, I believe his name is Dharmendra Pradhan.
Dharmendra, yeah.
Yes, and he said on Saturday, and basically posted his resignation letter on Twitter. Now the post has 46 million views. I think it's showing just how just showing just how active Indians or India youth are on social media.
Hmm.
And now, so what do you think of the cockroach movement and its effect and how do you think it's going to impact India's politics?
I don't know if it's going to impact that much, but I'm glad it's at least made some positive impact because, like I said on yesterday's show, the education system's been largely a mess. Like, it's not really about teaching people and helping people. It's more just about, all right, well, let's just see well, let's just let's just get as many people graduated as possible, and let's just go and just get as many passed through. Whatever happens, happens. But I think the real issue is the fact that in a country like India, there's 1.4 billion people, but only 86 million jobs. Even if you go, so basically, unless you're the top of your class or you're well connected, you're not really working here. You're not really working in the motherland or working abroad or going to school abroad because you're kind of screwed.
And that's it's basically it's basically you're basically saying that it's the education the system in India is basically screws a lot of people.
Oh yeah, I mean it's a very hyper competitive country. The way they treat school is the way like certain countries in Latin America or America treat sports.
And
It's really hyper competitive.
yeah, and I was going to ask, has it gone? I would say this: has it gone worse? Has it been like this before Modi came?
Oh yeah.
Or it just came out of the bloom? Because
no, it's been like this for a while. The only difference is with Modi, it's with someone like Narendra Modi. It just seems like a lot of things, a lot of problems that have been there for years, just get highlighted more and bubble up to the surface. So I think a lot of it's that, and it's because it's a school that was built by an opposition leader, and that guy happens to be a quote unquote Muslim, one of your people. I think everyone's highlighting that issue with when it comes to India and Modi and all that, because Hindu-Muslim conflicts have been there for a while, but this sort of corruption's been happening for years. This is not anything new.
Okay.
So it really is.
I think it's important. I think it's important to. I think it's also important, since we're talking about the cockroach movement. I think it's important to talk about the India's government, specifically their current prime minister, Narendra Modi.
Yes.
And I think it's worth pointing out that Narendra, for those who don't know, Narendra Modi is the current prime minister of India, and who's actually been serving since 2014.
Correct.
Making him currently, he's actually currently seen as the longest serving elected prime minister in India's history.
Yes, he is.
So yeah, and his party, and then his party is currently the BJP.
Correct, the BJP party. That's correct. Yeah.
Yes, and for those who don't know, the BJP has a long history of espousing Hindu nationalism, essentially rejecting India's history as a pluralistic nation and trying to push it towards becoming an explicitly Hindu one. It's actually long been affiliated with a paramilitary group called the RSS, whose early leaders admired Hitler.
Right. Well, it's kind of a complicated situation. The fact that, for a long time, India has never really been a quote unquote Hindu democracy or a Hindu state. Only in the last like 12, 15 years, there's been a, it's really gone that path. And during its, tenure, when you had guys like Jawaharlal Nehru or Rajiv Gandhi, or Indira Gandhi or any of these other people who were, in charge of the country, it was there was two different sets of laws. It was Hindus had one set of laws, and people who are Christians, Muslims, or whatever had a different set of laws. And oftentimes, if you weren't in the Hindu category, you kind of had more advantages when it came to education and employment than you did than the average Hindu did. And ironically enough, the only country that's considered like a Hindu state or a Hindu democracy is Nepal. It's not even India.
Oh.
So, so Modi, I'm not saying what he's doing is right, because, it's very hard to say, but it's been such a pendulum swinging back and forth, because for thousands of years, Indian people have never really been united on anything. That's why they've been colonized by so many different countries. When you have the caste system and you have regionalism, even when it was the first nationalism, even when it was the first civilization on Earth, it was just a bunch of city-states fighting with each other, going to war with each other. So this is probably the first time that ever in its civilization under Indian rule that India has really been united under someone like a Modi, because there's been a lot of Hindu Muslim stuff happening ever since the Mughals came in like hundreds of, if not thousands of years ago. So maybe like 900 years ago. So it's been very back and forth. So for a while, India was a very even though it was a majority Hindu, it was more open to like other nationalities, other ethnicities. But now because Modi took over, now that the pendulum's swinging the other way, which I'm not sure is a good thing. But at the same time, because when I lived there, Modi wasn't in charge. It was Manmohan Singh that was prime minister. So that tells you how old I am. But with Modi in charge, now the pendulum's swinging the other way, because a lot of Hindus actually feel that, okay, well, at least have Modi. Now our voices are being heard. Now we have our own. Now all this stuff about Muslims and other ethnicities taking over, at least now, those issues are being addressed. So, but, I don't really like the fact that, for a long time, whoever was in charge of the country, or whoever was in charge of any province, would always take the law into their own hands.
I was gonna say it's worth. I was gonna point out it's also worth acknowledging Modi's significant appeal, because let's be honest, I did research. It doesn't take a genius to look him up. Look up his life, and he has an inspirational personal story. He grew up poor and rose from selling tea on a railway platform in Gujarat, yes, Gujarat, and running that state, and eventually the entire country, in this election in 2014. And he basically, and I believe one of his platform is reducing inequality and building more sanitation in India. That
is also correct, because we've had a lot more the country has had a lot more infrastructure being upgraded and built as well. There's a lot of major cities in India now that probably have a better metro system, that probably have a better subway system than the U.S. So
yeah, but I would say this,
so there is that, and they also have it where the U.S. system also has where they also have like better airports, better infrastructure, so things are on the rise. But that being said, when it comes to a situation like this, it's also very difficult to really gauge for sure, because the thing I've noticed when I lived over there is that even when I lived over there in general, that a lot of Indian people really don't care all that much about free speech. They really, they care about free speech and to an extent, but they're also like, if you do something wrong and the police come over to your house, whatever happens. Like, a lot of Indian people don't really care about, and this is before Modi. A lot of them really don't care if, like, okay, shoot first, ask questions later, if the police have that. So they've always kind of had that authoritarian feel no matter what.
Yeah.
The only difference with Modi is that it almost seems like he's just trying to make up for lost time in regards to bending the pendulum, so to speak.
Yeah. And
the thing about Modi is he's a Hindu nationalist. He's been there, for 12 years or something. He's
yes.
He's getting a little bit on the nose,
Supposedly he's not allowed to run again because he's been in power for the last 15 years. But I'm not really sure how that works when it comes to all that. But
I was it's I was it's there, yeah, and then, like I said, there are some things to support Modi for, but there's also there's also some things and a lot of things to criticize him for, and it's actually hard to do. And when I found out, and I've actually talked to some friends whose family is from India. It's actually hard to actually to actually put out actual criticism in against Modi in India. For one thing, it's actually difficult to confront him to his face because he hasn't held a single press conference in India in the last 10 years. And when he did visit this is I think in Washington in either I forgot the country is either Washington D.C. or somewhere in Europe. He was given one of the reporters tried to ask him a question and he just walked off and he just basically walked off. And yeah, he hasn't had a single interview in the last 10 years. And the interviews that he's granted have been and the exact opposite.
right, right. Well, with Modi, he's always wanted to be like his own version of a Putin or a Netanyahu, but he also wants to like maintain the image of a democracy. So I'm not really sure what to make of it, but I do know that there are certain laws in the country where if you criticize certain religions, especially Hinduism, you could you could serve a sentence. But you could serve like a 2 or 3 year prison sentence, depending on how severe it is. But that being said, like I said, when it comes to the country itself, like the culture itself, they like. I mean, there was a lot of Indian people that were happy when Modi had laws saying that if you're arrested in these violent riots, and you get arrested, your house can be blown up. Even though the Supreme Court in 2024 in India said this is illegal, this is wrong, you have to pay them whatever, you have to pay them restitution for this. So, yeah, it's not a very the due process. They tend to speed up They don't really have a great sense of due process, even though they have like a judicial system. They have the courts, they have that, but at the same time, they do rush the judgment a lot of the time.
Oh.
It's very concerning.
Yeah, it's hard. And I would say, and I actually pointed this out back in 2024. It's hard to take on it's really hard to take on Modi, especially the same goes for his political opposition as because in 2024 he was facing off against a coalition called the Indian National Developmental and Inclusive Alliance, or India for short. And a monumentally weak, and I would say I don't like to be a person like criticizing party names or coalition names, but that's a monumentally weak name for a coalition. It's the first I in India stands for Indian. It'd be like if the H in HBO stood for HBO.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. But when it comes to that whole culture, it's just. It's very weird when it comes to like due process and personal and civil liberties.
Yeah.
It's like they believe in that, but they're also okay if like certain types of people don't get it. It's a very
But back to the cockroach movement. And like I said, the education minister resigned, and many see this, and many see this as a blow to Modi's power and his government. What do you think of that?
I mean, it is possible it could be a blow to his power, but it could also be possible that in 2 years people won't really remember. 2-3 years from now, people won't even remember this incident because, again, what this guy did, leaking the answer, having the exam paper questions leaked to a bunch of students and students getting arrested. for protesting and and having the government protest, putting pressure on people's students' family members. I mean, a lot of this is not new information. I remember 20 years ago, 20 some years ago, where a bunch of women, wanted to protest what was going on with other girls being sexually assaulted. They walked naked to a campus and ended up being shot by police somewhere in North India way back when. So, it's always kind of had its own authoritarian state, and it's always had its own, scratch my back, scratch your back type of feel. But with Modi, I don't really know if it loses anything, because a lot of Indian people like the fact that he's like a Hindu nationalist compared to what the Gandhis and Congress were doing for years.
Yeah, I would say I feel like when it comes to obviously, especially when it comes to domestic issues, but I would say there's I think Modi, when it comes to foreign policy, I think Modi has a tendency has been, I would say, correct me if I'm wrong, has been playing both sides.
Of course,
because on one hand he's part of the BRICS alliance, like China and Russia, and but on the other hand he tends to be extremely friendly with people like Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu. So
that's true.
So it's kind of a weird. It's like he's trying to have correct me if I'm wrong. He's trying to create this weird balancing act with his.
It is, but he's not the only one who's ever done that. I mean, I remember back in the days, well, not personally, but I remember, living back in the day for a long time, even during the Cold War era, where Jawaharlal Nehru, the first prime minister of India during the Cold War, was allies with the U.S. and the Russians, while the Pakistanis were upset because India got to play both sides while they were just all in on America. So what Modi's doing in that regard is very traditional as an Indian politician and an Indian prime minister.
The prime minister you mentioned that he was playing that was playing both sides with the
That's been the case for 70 years. Like, India's always had a great relationship with Russia, and Russia's always loved Indian culture when it comes to geopolitics and Bollywood and all that. So that's been very amicable from both sides. And the U.S. and India have done business with each other for the last 70, 75 years. So in that aspect, Modi's just another Indian prime minister when it comes to that. So he's just par for the course. But yeah, but from a personal note of his, he's always been inspired by people like Benjamin Netanyahu and Vladimir Putin. Mm-hmm. He's tried to learn from both of those guys. So take that for what it's worth, I suppose. But
yeah, because we've noticed that in, what was that? The wife and the husband, him and Netanyahu.
Yeah,
they're so kind of sleeping about that.
Yeah, and you also have to remember in 2016 when Donald Trump was running for president and he was trying to get the quote-unquote Indian vote, because a lot of Indian people are conservative, financially speaking, and socially to a point. Trump was trying to speak in Hindi using Narendra Modi's, Narendra Modi's slogan. The slogan that was said for Modi when he ran for office was "Aapki baar Modi Sarkar," and then of course Donald Trump, in his way, trying to read it in his own accent, he would be like "Aapki baar Trump Sarkar," and when Indian people try to listen, they're like, "What the hell is this guy saying? I don't understand."
Yeah,
Indian people are like, "I don't understand his accent." I'm like,
I noticed that when Trump tried to try Hindu dialects, he said a lot of Hindus on social media lost their minds. They're like, why is it namaste? It's namaste. Like, why?
Aapki baar Trump Sarkar. I want to do for America what Modi Saab has done for India. Believe me, folks.
Mm-hmm. I think he would have won. I think Trump would have. I know people are thinking if Trump would have definitely won 100% of the Indian vote, if he said vote for me and I'll never try Indian ever again, never try Hindu ever again.
You mean Hindi, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say in 2024, a lot of Indian people voted for him over Harris because they're like, my taxes were lower under Trump. I just stick with that. You know, I mean, he won in 2016 and 2024 despite him, butchering the Indian language, our languages. But whatever the fuck, that's Trump for you.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, but yeah, Indian people hated Harris. I used to call her Hindu Hillary back in the day.
Mhm.
Well,
Like,
why is that?
well, because she would do a lot of things Hillary did, and she was Indian, sadly. Even though they claim she was half black, half Indian, I don't know how true the half black thing is. Denard, you're black. Do you claim Kamala Harris as one of your own?
She's from Jamaica. Her father's from Jamaica. So yeah.
Okay, sorry, dude. But
It's fine. It's fine. It doesn't like if people to talk to me ask me that act as I'm offended. Like I'm not offended. It's like it's gonna take more than questioning Kamala Harris' blackness. Kamala Harris' blackness is going to offend me. We get enough of that from Barack Obama.
yeah, I mean, in all fairness, I mean, when I found out she was half Indian, I was kind of not happy about that either. I'm like, can she just be an Arab or something? Because I remember when Max and I were doing shows, he was like, no, because he's black. So he's like, no, we don't claim Harris. And I'm like, well, damn it. Most of my people don't claim Harris either. And can we just have her Arab or can we just make her an Arab or something? It's just somebody wants her. But no, yeah. I mean, when it comes to the whole situation, it's always been a mess. I mean, Modi's just taking things to another level, but at the end of the day, a lot of Hindus are happy with Modi, with what he's done, because for the first time in a long time, a lot of Indian people that are Hindus think Modi's finally, trying to reverse what the Gandhis and the other quote unquote outsiders have done for a long time. No, it's a mess either way.
Right.
I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, the Gandhis were great and Manmohan Singh was awesome and any of that, because they really weren't that special. So it's kind of hard to be that critical of Modi. But at the same time, with the way Modi does things, it's also kind of hard to really, have the, wave the, the orange and green pom poms either. So it's a very delicate situation.
Many people. I was gonna say, many people. Do you think do you believe there's going to be any changes to the education system after the cockroach movement, or after the education minister have resigned, or is it going to be back to the same thing, but with more, but less, but less appearing corrupt?
That's a good question, because I was discussing this yesterday with Dolores, and we were and supposedly the university that was built, that was founded by a Muslim, that's founded by people of the opposition party, didn't even get permission to build the didn't obtain proper permission to build the university in the first place, but yet the laws in 2019 said they didn't need to obtain the certain permission they needed to build it back then that they would have needed to build now. But on the other hand, this does seem like business as usual, where it's okay, well, wait a second, if the people in power aren't happy with the people in charge of the university, they are going to take no matter what. But on the other hand, if the university built it on foreign land, then I don't know what to say, because when it comes to real estate in India, you pretty much have to prove every year that you own certain properties. Otherwise, you're kind of screwed. I mean, I remember what my uncle back in the day, when it came to promoting, to prove, verifying proof that, that my grandmother owned certain properties, he would go out of his way every year to sign documents and other notarized paperwork saying, yes, this is the person who owns the house. So, I mean, if they had to do that for a house, imagine what they have to do that was owned for 50-something years. Imagine what they had to do for a university. But then, there's a lot of, shady, like every other government and contractors. There's always like, insider deals happening all the time. I would hope that the education system changes, because the problem with the Indian education system is the fact that all they care about is studying for career, but not in memorization, but not really, developing any other parts. And it also doesn't help that it goes back to the same thing where it's also so hyper competitive that if you don't know the right people, or you're not an exceptional student, you're kind of stuck. So I think in that regard, that's also problematic. So I would like to see it change, because I think, especially with the way the country's set up, people do need a way to get out. People do need a way to progress their careers without either needing to know someone who knows someone who knows someone, or without needing to be at the top, 5% of their class. Because I don't think long term a hyper competitive environment is really good for the country long term. But then we can say the same thing about the U.S. education system. That's a complete mess, where we're pretty much taught a bunch of nonsense.
These tariffs are a big problem, Harsh,
Which tariffs?
The tariffs are putting on countries like put a tariff on my country and
Australia. Yeah, your country's like a prison.
It's a bit, yeah.
The way you guys
like
had to deal with stuff deal with the issues between 2020 and 2024. I don't know how you guys. I don't even know how you're doing podcasts, to be honest, Wayne. But but then there's also
the other day I was coming home from a funeral. I was getting a lift to where I live, and I noticed these big data centers, and these data centers are a big problem because they're taking up the energy, the water, the power to, they go 24 hours a day, and you've got heaps of them in America.
Oh yeah, they're taking up a lot of water, ruining the water system. What's kind of crazy about AI is like, even though it causes a lot of issues and problems that comes to the data centers and all the crap that's happening with them, it's also the equalizer in one aspect. Because if everyone has AI, then what happens with education? Because eventually the education system is going to collapse or severely reform, because at some point it's going to be, you either need to know AI, you have to become a professional, or you have to become a blue collar, like, a tradesman. Otherwise you're screwed. Like, you're not going to be able to just be some random, middle market manager or something. Like, you're not going to be able to do any of that with AI. And it also doesn't help that, Harvard has fallen off so badly that they're having OnlyFans girls speaking on their campus. Harvard University, that Harvard, where you need like a 1600 on your.
Actually, I was going to tell you that it's still winter here in Sydney, and it's still very cold. And I got a really nice jacket yesterday, and I got it for half price. So I just don't want to get it stolen or lost now, because I got a really good bargain on it. It's my first it's a puffer jacket. It's my first really good jacket I've had.
Oh, wait, as long as you're not running into any 20-something co-eds, I think you'll be fine in keeping your jacket.
Yeah, hopefully.
I mean, if they want an older Australian zaddy, then you might lose your jacket. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird, though, because I'm hoping that the Indian education system improves, because it can't just be memorizing, answers to questions and just being so hyper-fixated on your subject that you forget critical thinking skills, or you forget how to be a person. Because that's not healthy either. Especially when we know what we know in the world.
If this latest attack on Iran has stopped now? Because we're nearly 3 hours into it now. Is it still going, or is it stopped? Does anyone know?
Denard Dolores. Has it stopped or is it
No,
still?
it's still going on.
Still
Now,
going on. Okay.
Netanyahu visits Washington, and then boom, there goes Trump.
Jeez.
Yeah. Mm.
People are still falling for this. Trump's still falling for this okey doke. This is so stupid.
Who knows?
Mm.
He gets threatened by Netanyahu. Remember, I've got this, I've got that. I mean, who knows what he says to him?
I mean, he
Well,
must
that
be.
Iranian commander, the one who features prominently all the time with the Iranian Republican Guard Corps spokesperson, he said that they're definitely out to hurt Trump's family now. So
Well,
that'll be interesting to see if that threat comes off.
Well, I mean, I don't know if that's a positive or a negative for any of Trump's adversaries. Do you really want to deal with, everyone's favorite couch fucker, JD Vance?
Mm.
I'm just saying. I don't know that JD Vance being in power is much better for America's adversaries.
I put in a post, D may or may not have seen it, but I put in a post to D that, they should circumnavigate JD Vance and go for Johnson. Johnson would be a bit more easier. What do you think of that?
Well, when it comes to JD Vance, he doesn't have the salesman skills. I know he wasn't for all this with Iran. But he does, for him to run for office, say if he takes over for Trump and then, he tries to run for re-election, whatever, he doesn't have the skills to run. He's another deadweight, just like Harris doesn't have the skills. Some people, they don't have the communication skills, the salesmanship. I mean,
I would say that JD Vance. I would say JD Vance was, and I agree with Dolores. JD Vance only came into the political spotlight because he got the endorsement and support of Donald Trump. He became vice president because of Donald Trump. Like his entire political spectrum, it's basically because he basically is consolidating himself with Donald Trump. But let's also not forget he's pretty much part of the establishment as well. Because let's not forget his inspirationer is Peter Thiel, and Peter Thiel is basically a technocratic military industrial complexer. He's he basically his entire it's rising up and becoming engaged in politics is because of the backings of people like Peter Thiel, and that makes him also makes him an extremely dangerous person because he's plugged into a lot of weird right-wing subcultures.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah, because the Republicans, they wanted J.D. Vance, like you said, Peter Thiel, and there was others that wanted J.D. Vance, but they knew he didn't have the skills to get into office. He didn't have that salesman, so they backed Trump, wanting the other guy as vice president.
Yeah, and also let's not forget about the fact his admirer Peter Thiel backed Vance's 2022 Senate campaign with at that point the largest amount given to a single candidate in congressional history. That campaign, by the way, then gave us that iconic political ad with a truly iconic opening line written by J.D. Vance himself, saying, that famous his campaign announcement, saying. Then basically saying, "Are you a racist? And do you hate Mexicans?" And I'm sorry, I keep rewatch that political campaign ad, and I'm like, how did this guy ended up becoming senator of Ohio?
Ohio.
Yeah, he was running for the U.S. Senate in Ohio.
Oh, couch fucker.
No, JD Vance.
Yeah, couch fucker.
Yeah.
He changed his name several times too.
Yeah, I think at least 3 different times he changed his name.
Yeah.
Yeah, Couch Fucker Vance, right. Ah, these people are so weird.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy's supposed to be like the leading nominee for the. That guy's supposed to be the leading candidate for the Republican nomination for the presidency. Like, how is it we get weirder? How is it that the candidates we get are like worse and worse than previous years?
I know, because sometimes you're thinking it can't get any worse, and then the next thing is
I mean,
something.
now they get worse. It's like comically worse.
Yes.
And so the question of whether or not and some people actually could think thinking maybe JD Vance is going to be better than maybe a better president than Donald Trump. Like, no, I absolutely freaking not. I mean, sure, we got some good takes of him criticizing the Israeli government. He's going to continue the same policies as long as Peter Thiel holds the wallet over his head.
Of course.
And we all know how much of a right wing psycho Peter Thiel is.
Yeah, I mean, Peter Thiel's like pretty much he's pretty much evil. But in regards to Vance, he's gonna sound like he's anti-Israel until he gets elected, and then all of a sudden it's gonna be more of the same nonsense. But honestly, I don't really see the Republicans winning anything in 26 or 28.
Yeah, I would say when it comes to the Republican Party, I think they're going to be. I think because the fact that they willingly basically centered their political party around one guy with a ego so big you can see it from the moon. That he's basically going to see. Trump is basically going to is going to make sure that if he's going down, that he's going to take the Republican Party with him.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though: the Republican Party was already down until Trump took it over. So I mean, they kind of don't have a choice. I mean, think about the Republican Party in 2008, 2012. There was no Bush, no Trump, no Reagan, no nothing. They were just a bunch of losers.
Yeah.
They're gonna get off.
And with the stuff.
Yeah, I get why people like the Republican Party. Many Republicans turn to Donald Trump because he seems like a much more fresh figure, even though that fresh figure was 70 at the time.
Right.
But I'm saying he has a salesperson pragmatism that can charm people into trusting him. And that's why many people actually support Donald Trump instead of Ted Cruz.
Right, yeah.
Oh,
Ted Cruz is far worse.
Ted Cruz is just
Ted Cruz would have already launched we would have already been in like a nuclear holocaust. But But that being said, right now, I don't know what the Democrats or Republicans do, because I mean, the Democrats may have no choice but to either, double down on the Israel nonsense with Fetterman, go milk the Obama cow one more time with Rahm Emanuel, or do what the Republicans did and hire a freaking TV personality nominate a TV personality to run for president, Stephen A. Smith.
To be fair, to be fair, I don't think that last one was a bad idea. Jon Stewart, 2028 would actually would actually get me to vote for Democrat again.
Jon Stewart probably would be a better candidate than the person I was thinking of. That may run for office. His name is Stephen A. Smith. He might be running for president in 2028.
Stephen A. Smith, what a name.
Yeah. The guy who can't even talk about sports accurately is going to run for president. As a Democratic nominee. There is a very good chance of that happening.
Well, to be fair, there's already. Well, to be fair, I think correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Stephen A. Smith had already declared that he is going to run for president. And I may be wrong about that.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if he has. So yeah, I mean, Jon Stewart would probably look like John F. Kennedy compared to any of the guys running for office.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, you have Gavin Newsom, whose other state's a mess too. So it's like great.
Yeah, and we've already there's already a list of Democrats and Republicans who've actually expressed interest in running for running in the primary, and these are Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear, former Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg, former Ambassador Rahm Emanuel, former current Arizona Senator Ruben Gallego, former Vice President Kamala Harris, Arizona Senator Mark Kelly, California Representative California Governor Gavin Newsom, New York Representative Alexandria
Ocasio-Cortez.
Yes, Michigan Senator Elisa Slotskin, Senator my current state senator, Chris Van Hollins, and current Governor of Michigan Gretchen Whitmer.
Yeah, like I said, out of the names that you already mentioned, two of them I mentioned in Newsom and Emanuel. I mean, because Newsom's got California, but I don't know how many people are bragging about that. And Rahm Emanuel is like the last drop of milk from the Obama. Is the last plant coming from the Obama tree. So I don't know how well that works. And as for the other names you mentioned, well, Pete Buttigieg and Kamala Harris, last time either of them ran for office or ran for president, we saw how badly that ended for both of them.
Well, Kamala Harris dropped out before the primary, and Pete Buttigieg dropped out during the primary election.
Yeah.
During the primary election.
Nobody was going for Harris during the primary, so.
Yeah. After that comeuppance she got from Tulsi Gabbard.
Yeah.
That was good. That was good.
I mean, that's yeah. So I mean, it's going to be an interesting 26 and 28 because I really don't see the Republicans winning just based on the fact that I think I was discussing with this Dolores yesterday that Trump's kind of dropped the ball on so many aspects. I mean, it's so bad. Even like Tommy Lauren of all people was like, as bad as it said. To paraphrase her, she thinks she tweeted somewhere like, as bad as the Iran war was, and it was bad. A lot of people Trump's going to lose because of the economy and immigration, because the economy's crap, and Trump hasn't, according to those people, he hasn't deported enough illegals. So really, he's kind of screwed. Because
right,
the
look at the
Republicans
deportation of when Obama was in office, and he deported more.
Yeah. There's a lot of people in there's a lot of people right now in the Republican Party. Wait a second. You ran on on deporting 20 million people, illegals, and you haven't even deported, and you've only deported 3% of that, and 675,000 approximately. So why would, and like you said, Obama deported way more illegal immigrants than Trump. So why would Trump have anything? And the people on the left, think he's a fascist and a Nazi, and the people on the right think he's an underachiever and a loser. So how do they have any sort of momentum in 26 or 28?
I don't know.
So they're kind of screwed. The only way they win is if they're so fucking stupid. Is if the Democrats are so fucking stupid, they shit all over their base again, or do another bait and switch like they did in 2008, where we got this far leftist Obama, running for president. Oh, we got some far left people, and then we're gonna give you a bunch of right wing policies. That's the only way they're gonna fuck it up. Because that's kind of why Trump became president in the first place. Because instead of giving people universal health care, you gave people Romney care. And instead of having reinstating Glass-Steagall, you gave us the libertarian version of it in Dodd-Frank. So I don't really see how the Democrats can win if they don't actually pull through on their policies for once.
Right, because they always have an excuse why they can't do something.
Yeah.
They can do it, but they have an excuse why the can has to get kicked down the road.
Right. I mean, Obama had a freaking super majority from January 2009 to January 2011. He had a super majority to get any policies he wanted implemented, and he chose not to do it. So,
Right, he had the salesman skills
yeah.
with talking to people.
Right. I mean, and the Democrats are and the Democrats, as much as the Republicans are screwed, the Democrats are also screwed too, because it's like, out of all the people you mentioned, the only like legitimate contenders are Rahm Emanuel from the Obama tree, Josh Fetterman, who's like just a typical Zionist, swing state Zionist, and freaking Gavin Newsom, whose state of California is really not looked at in a positive light by many people, and and freaking what's Stephen A. Smith. And the other names you mentioned, I don't know if AOC is going to play that. I don't know if people like AOC and Buttigieg and Harris or any of the other guys you mentioned are going to play that well either, because it's like, I don't know what they bring, but we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it is definitely their race to lose. I'm not saying they'll actually win. I'm not saying the Democrats will win, but they're definitely favored to win.
Yeah, they are favored. Only they can screw it up.
And they have before. I mean, they screwed up 2016 in so many ways. We don't want to get into that. They screwed up 14 in so many ways. They do have a history of screwing up winnable elections. Look at 2014 and 2016, or 2022 and 2024. So, I mean, it is possible they could fuck it up.
Oh, it is. Definitely.
They've done it before in our lifetimes. And not even in our lifetime, in like recent memory.
Right, because if there's a candidate that's leading and could beat the other candidate, and they decide, well, we didn't want this person, we want this other person, they'll screw it up like they did with Bernie and Hillary.
Yeah. I mean, we saw how this went down. Right. I mean, 2024, they mismanaged the primary so badly. They're like, all right, Harris, all right, Hindu Hillary, you can run for president, even though you never were vetted properly. You never had an actual primary to fight through. Let's just, sit there and just do whatever. Just, pretend that, you're going to run for president and try to make things better, even though you're already in office and you're not doing anything worth a damn already. Like, so,
I'm just going to keep doing with Biden. I'm just going to keep with his policies.
Yeah, nothing's going to fundamentally change. Nothing's going to be different. I'm just going to follow along.
And meanwhile, everybody's is out protesting. People are totally upset about what's going on with Gaza.
Yeah,
people are sickened by it, and she's like, "Oh, we're just going to go along the way the way he's doing it." And then at the what is that, at the campaign rally, whatever. What do you call it? The thing. But anyway, she was there. She didn't have, a Palestinian up there speaking. Everything was, Israel, and Israel has the right to exist, and just used all their talking points that had been covered as lies,
right.
Where October 7th was concerned, and she just repeated whatever they said and totally just ignored, the Muslim base and everybody else that's pro-Palestine. She just ignored all that, the whole group.
Well, I mean, the most ridiculous part of it all was that she was already in office. Biden was a lame duck. And when she's talking about what she's going to do for the country with regards to this policy or that policy or the other policies, wait a second. You're already the VP. Biden is going to be out of office in a few months. Biden can sign whatever the hell you want into law as an executive order.
Right.
Like, he has nothing to lose. He has nothing to preserve. You can do that and then just see her say, "Oh, when I get into office, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this." Wait a second. You're already in office. Why don't you do that?
Well, I was saying mainly because, and this is not a defense to Kamala Harris, but she's the vice president. she was the vice president, and
Right.
mostly the vice president's job is mostly just really just swearing in senators and wait till the president drops dead or resigns.
Pretty much. They're an insurance policy. No, I get that part. But I'm
Basically.
talking about when Biden said he wasn't going to run for office again. That's when Harris could have done everything she wanted to do, in theory.
Well,
'Cause
except
it's-
so he would have backed her. He would have, said,
Well-
yes, we want her to run, and
Right. I mean, he could have backed her. He backed her for the nomination. She could have just gotten anything she wanted to run on, passed into law through executive order via, Biden's office. I just don't understand how you even run a campaign like that, and just on promising to do things that she could have easily had done during that lame duck period. But I don't. But I don't know. Maybe that's not as interesting for people. Who knows? So I don't know. But
I don't know, because I think they were going along with, what gets me is they try to speak to the people that really are not involved in politics.
no.
So they're speaking to the ignorant, and they say, well, if we can get this ignorant group in, if they'll vote for us, they'll vote for us. But what about everybody else that has been following what's been going on? You just take it like, oh, well, they're not going to vote for Trump. A lot of people stayed home.
Right.
They
Well,
just want
I don't know if they stayed home or if they died, but all I know is that when one candidate runs on, hey, here's an idea, here's a plan, and another candidate runs on, oh yeah, everything's great, nothing's going to change. Well, you get what you get.
Yes.
But yeah, this is a very interesting time in U.S. politics because we may end up having the death of the Republican and Democrat parties after Trump's election, after Trump's term.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how long the Democrats are going to go. Because if they're compromised to avoid Stephen A. Smith or a Josh Fetterman or a Gavin Newsom is to have Rahm Emanuel become the nominee, then that might be the last candidate the Democrats have to run for president. Ever. Because you can only go to the Obama tree so many times.
Right.
And Barack Obama does not have the pull that he used to have.
No.
I mean that the days of Barack Obama getting somebody elected by a speech that's been over. So for about the last decade minimum.
Right, because there was so much excitement when he was running for office. I mean, I went out there and was knocking on doors. I was excited. I was, doing the phone banking and everything else. It was a time of excitement, and then all of a sudden, it was not what we all thought. We got fooled. I think a lot of people.
It's the ultimate bait and switch. I mean, the guy was from my area. He was a fan of my favorite sports teams, and he ran for president. And he won, and then he was like, "Yeah."
Yeah, it changed a lot. It was like a wake up call for a lot of people, because even people that really weren't involved too much in politics got involved. He just has that aura. The way he communicated, and like you say, he had that salesman skill, but just the way he communicated, you could sit and listen to him. Since Obama, I have to say, there hasn't been anybody in there that I could actually sit and listen to.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, when Obama ran for office, I was very excited about it too. But then now it's like, back in the day, because he's from Chicago, he was a leftist, he was the anti-Bush. He cheered, from a cultural standpoint, it was like, oh yeah, Obama's one of us running for office. When you're from the Chicagoland area, you're running for president, it's kind of cool. But it's like, now, they're looking back on it, it was the ultimate bait and switch. So,
Yeah.
That's always kind of hilarious listening to people that say Donald Trump's a con man when it's like, yeah, Trump may be a con man, but we know he's a con man. It wasn't like Obama who baited and switched everybody, but the way he did, it's like,
Well, he went neoliberal after he's.
yeah. I mean, the guy ran for president as a far leftist and then gave you the same policies that a Rahm Emanuel and a Hillary Clinton and Mitt Romney would give you. So it's like,
Yeah.
fuck it.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of which, shall we move on to Peru?
Okay.
So for those who are here, I want you to know that right now Keiko Fujimori just yesterday, I think it's yesterday. Yeah, just yesterday was just sworn in as the nation as Peru's Peru's current president. She's now serving she's been sworn in. Many consider her, and she's made history as despite being in the right, she made history as being the first elected female president. So yeah, that's basically the big the big standing that she's got.
Right, that she's a female.
Yeah. But many people, but people seem to completely worry about is the fact that she is a Fujimori, and if you don't know who the Fujimori is, congratulations, you're not Peruvian. But very basically, she's actually considered a more controversial figure. She's actually her return to power is one of the most polarized is one of the most polarizing political moments in Latin America today. For instance, she's the daughter of former President Alberto Fujimori, and she ran for president 4 previous times before winning, and her campaign platform was basically promised to restore security, strengthen the economy, and crack down on organized crime. Basically, she's trying to, and she basically built her political identity around her father. Her father, and why? And the question is, why is her presidency so controversial? Well, like I say, it's based on her last name, the Fujimori, and her father. Her father remained one of the most. Her father, despite being seen as a dictator,
Right.
he's remained as one of the most politically divisive leaders. Supporters credit him with defeating the Shining Path insurgency and stabilizing Peru's economy, while critics point to serious human rights abuses, corruption, and authoritarian rule during his presidency. And for many Peruvians, Keiko's victory represents either stability or the return of Fujimorism.
Mm.
So, what does this mean for Peru? Well, Fujimori says her priority includes fighting organized crime, expanding the military involvement in public security, growing the economy through private investment, raising the minimum wage, and investing in infrastructure. But critics worry, which sounds pretty good on paper, but it depends on how our actions will look, because critics worry that tougher security measures could come at the expense of civil liberty and democratic institutions. And it's becoming a long, and we're noticing, and this is a noticeable long trend of Latin American countries electing right-wing leaders. But she could end up facing some difficulties during her presidency. Well, for starters, the Congress of Peru is now a bilateral, which means there's now a house, and there's a lower house and the upper house, which is now the Senate, which is the reopening of the Senate, and it's basically divided in the Congress because the government both run by by the Popular Force Party, which is Keiko Fujimori's current party. That it has is in government with the backing of the far right Popular Renewal Party, being ran by run by their leader Rafael Lopez Aliaga, and that guy is a human chaos, a human catastrophe. That'll take too long for me to describe. That'll take me too long to go into description of how bad that guy is. But they only have, but like I said, but they only have 56 seats in the House, while the combined have 56 seats in the House, while the other side, run by left wing parties like Together for Peru, the newly created party of good government, a center to center left political party, Obras, the center left Obras party, and the left wing Now Nations party. That's basically, if you point it all together, it's basically the left wing faction. They have the most seats in the House. In the House. So the left basically has a majority in the House, while the right has a minority. Same thing, and another situation in the Senate, which is basically split 30-30. Basically split 30-30 between the right wing and the left wing factions. So we're gonna have to see what's gonna happen here. But I can say this. What's the most notable trend is that many of these right-wing leaders have something in common. That is their strong affection of Donald Trump and their complete and their unconditional support for Israel. Because let's not forget the president-elect of Colombia, as well as the current president of Peru, Keiko Fujimori, both spoke to the Israeli government, basically trying to normalize relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And in addition to that, the Keiko Fujimori actually has a big admirer. Also has a big admirer who is, you guess it, Javier Milei of Argentina.
Oh God! Oh God! It's the crowd. Yeah, because I was going to say before you said it about with Trump, she's going to do whatever Trump wants. Trump and Netanyahu, the Isaac Accords, and whatever Trump wants to do in Peru, she's going to go along with it.
Yeah, it's so not great, not great for Peru, but it is what it is. But while some are willing to give Fujimori a chance that maybe she'll be different, I wouldn't be so sure, because like I said, she basically ran on her entire political identity and philosophy is based on her father, and a lot of and it's worth pointing out that she only won. That's worth pointing out that she didn't win the interior vote. She didn't win the national vote of inside of Peru during the election. I think that's the most important thing to point out. The only reason she was able to make it that close to the finish line in winning the presidency was by the exterior votes. People from outside of Peru, and mainly from people like in places like the United States.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Evelina has a comment here. I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong. Balarte, before her, was female, and she was awful. Another female in Peru is not the novelty. Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say like I think the difference between Dina Balarte and Keiko Fujimori is that Dina basically Dina was basically in a position where she'll do anything to stay in power, which is why she basically abandoned her party that she ran on, the left wing Free Peru party, ditched Petro Castillo, and when she became president, immediately started catering to the right. basically did everything she can to stay in power. But until she basically served her, until the right basically said that you served your purpose and basically tossed her to the wolves, which is why, and that's why, that's that I think that's why that she was actually considered her approval rating was actually strung at basically to the single digits. And as for Keiko Fujimori, she knows what she's doing. She knows what she ran. I mean, she's the. I mean, many people believe that fundamentally believe that she's basically responsible for the political crisis that Peru has been experiencing since 2016.
Well, I mean, at the end of it, yeah, I tried watching some of the inauguration, and I was like, this lady's just she's just such an insider and opportunist. It's just so easy to see that with her. Like, there's nothing different. She's just a slightly youthful, somewhat better looking version of Hillary Clinton. That's basically what she is. Like, she's an insider talking about how she wants to uphold the Constitution and fight for people. It's like, lady, you've had a chance to do that for 30 fucking years. You didn't do it. So I don't.
Yeah,
That's all I'm gonna say on it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also worth pointing out that that the political situation happened mainly, the crisis happened mainly because the Fujimoris basically decided to punish the country and the government for not voting for her. Because let's not forget that in the last two, I would say in the last two elections, I can remember 2016 and 2021, she won. She lost by basically by an inch, and many of the candidates lost by an inch. Like Pedro Pablo Kaczynski won by 50.12% of the votes, while she won 49.88% of the votes, and she did not take that election very well, because she basically denied the results and basically decided.
So she really is a Clinton. Wow, fuck that cunt. All right.
Yeah, and she basically denied the vote, denied the results, and basically made it her mission to basically make the president's life miserable, which is why there was a series of impeachments and resignations from presidents, and again in 2021 when she lost to Pedro Castillo, and when he won 50.13% of the vote, and she won 49.80 and 49.87. She did not take that well. She even went further by claiming fraud, and she decided to make make Castillo's presidency even more miserable, which is why even though Castillo, even though he's supposed to be on the left, spent a lot of time trying to appease the right, which did not work. Which is why, and he's faced multiple impeachment proceedings.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Evelina says, highly sus that people in Latin America are actually voting for these far-right tyrants. Fraudulent elections appear to be the norm since Trump, and the Israelis intervened in election results. Yeah, I think so too.
It's true. But I think it's also worth pointing out, it's worth pointing out, yes, they're voting for these countries are voting for right-wing figures, but it's also but we also have to look at the legislative branch as well, because the people vote for that as well, which is, and we're also seeing a pattern that even though the right wing won the presidency, they're gonna the left does pretty good. They actually did pretty well in the legislative elections, which is why we're going to be seeing a lot of pushbacks from the by the left and by the left, even in the center, but against the right wing and the far right. Which is why, and it's like I said, it's worth pointing out that in Colombia, the right wing, the left wing, the extreme right won, but it's what but they extreme but they didn't win the presidency. They didn't win the Congress the enough seats in the Congress or enough coalition in the Congress. So that's what's pointing out. Like I said, like I pointed out in Peru, like Fujimori won and she's the president, but she doesn't have the votes in the House and probably going to be struggling to get the votes in the Senate. The Senate.
And you know what gets with her too, when she always talks about bringing things back, how great, like things were great when her father was president, and it was like it wasn't. Maybe for her, people like her, but for a lot of the country, it wasn't great. She's all with that neoliberalism.
Yeah, I think the difference between the other presidents and Fujimori is that she might end up finishing up her full term, because none of them, because like I said, what's pointing out that none of them finish out that Pablo Kaczynski and Pedro Kaczynski and Petro Castillo never finished their full term.
Right.
Mainly due to the right making absolute hell of the presidency.
Mm-hmm.
So that's basically going to be the difference between those presidents and the current and now this current one, and that is she might just have enough leg room to finish up her full term.
Right, because like you said, she was the one that was behind all the other ones having to step down.
Exactly. And right now many were worried that we're going to see another trend like this happening in Brazil, because let's not forget about the fact, and that comes to the next thing, and that is the Argentina. There's some beef between Argentina and Brazil.
Well, Brazil, he's not letting foreigners in before the election. Like the other Latin American countries did. He knows there's something sus going on, so he's not opening up the country.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, ahead of time. Wait, Evelina has something to say here. She says, "You think so, Donardi? I'm not so sure she will finish her term. Yeah, we'll have to see.
Yeah, well, like I said, we'll have to see. I mean, she basically laid the groundwork of ousting every president, making every president's life miserable. So, like you said, I wouldn't be surprised if it ended up biting her in the butt someday. So, like I said, we'll have to see to see whether she complete her full term or not. That's going to be an entirely different conversation. But yeah, but now as you know, there's like I said, there's some beefs going on between Brazil and Argentina. Mainly has to do with the fact that Argentina won't shut up about their loss in the World Cup.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because Malay actually was basically created a commission against anti Argentinian hate against and he basically blamed Brazil for that.
That's crazy.
And not only that, Javier Milei, the president of Argentina, actually went to Brazil. To campaign to campaign with Flavio Bolsonaro, the son of the current senator of Sao Paulo, and the son of the former president Jair Bolsonaro.
Yes, I read that.
Yeah, and she basically an Argentinian president, a foreign president, campaigning for a candidate in a country he does not live in. It's basically, and it's also worth pointing that during Flavio Bolsonaro's campaign announcement, he's also backed by Benjamin Netanyahu.
I know. It's sickening. It's sickening.
And it's worth pointing out that Flavio Bolsonaro is actually was never the right's best was actually the right's basically last choice for who they want for president.
Hmm.
Yeah, even they acknowledge that yeah, this guy this guy is basically toxic.
Yeah.
In fact, I believe their first choice who would of who would be their who will run as their candidate in their candidate for president was the current right wing president of right wing governor of Sao Paulo, Tarcísio de Freitas, who actually served as Bolsonaro's Minister of Infrastructure from 2019 to 2022. But Tarcísio actually turned down the offer and decided to run for re-election. And which is why they decided, okay, we'll just go with Flavio Bolsonaro with Jair Bolsonaro's blessing.
Okay, so Evelina says ultimately Milei is responsible for anti-Argentine campaign.
Yeah, exactly. And it's and it's and many and I mean the only reason I will also say that the problem that the people responsible for the anti-Argentina campaign is Argentina. It's the Argentinians themselves.
Right.
So I mean, for goodness sake, like we know what they did. We watched the World Cup. We saw what they did. They're just bad, and they show their colors. And Argentinians are just mad that they've been caught and they've been exposed.
Right.
So this whole there's an anti-Argentinian sentiment is ridiculous. Like y'all caused the sentiment.
Exactly. But blame it on somebody else, you know? Don't take responsibility. I guess
Yeah,
that seems to be the thing.
yeah, exactly. So, and I would say, this. I would say this. I think the right is not going to. I don't think the right is going to win this the Brazilian election. That's
I
my
don't think so either.
that's my personal hope.
No. No, they don't want to.
Because because Brazil already seen what's it like to live under a right wing president and having another candidate with a last name affiliated with a father who, let's not forget, helped try to attempted a coup. It's not going to be a good look for him.
No.
And already multiple polls shows that Lula actually has a much better chance of winning re-election than
Yes, he does.
against Bolsonaro. And it doesn't it doesn't look good where your fans that Flavio's biggest fans are a psycho, a pedophile, and a war criminal.
Hmm. Yeah. And you know, when Bolsonaro was in too, there was the issue with the rainforest and everything else. You bring the right wing in, I mean, they just want to destroy everything.
Exactly. It's like it's ridiculous that there's actually people in the United States that wants him back. You know, that wants that kind of thing back.
Right, because you have the U.S. I mean, everything. I, it's like this corporate, you know, they just this bring in this corporate power, and all they do is destroy the land. They destroy everything.
Yeah,
Why do you
that's
want
what,
that?
yeah, it's unfortunate what happens in your country as a corporation. So
Yes.
until the people kind of like do what they got to do, I don't really know if it's plausible. So,
Yeah, because I'm like, keep those corporations as far away as possible. It's the
yeah,
last thing you want.
you would think at some point once AI takes over and makes it like inhabitable for and makes the country inhabitable for like 90% of the population. You would think that's the time when people revolt and have an uprising, but I'm not so sure it's going to happen. So
Hmm.
I don't know. Did you
I don't
guys
like.
ever talk about Spain and Argentina? Oh,
Talk about Spain and Argentina.
yeah. Just looking at some of the videos, just looking at some of the comments. Yeah.
What
God.
about? Yeah, you were talking about. Okay, what is
I
Argentina?
mean,
Okay,
I mean, sorry, Brazil and Argentina. Yeah.
yeah. Evelina says the Argentine people need left solidarity at this point, not condemnation. Yeah, they need solidarity. The left. Yes.
Yeah, but they also have to stop treating people like Denard, like a bunch of stop being so racist toward them too. So I don't know.
Yeah, I was gonna point that out. If you were if you wanted to want me to show I would show blatant with some sympathy. Maybe cut the racist crap. Like y'all like Argentina literally has a restaurant that literally has the N word in it.
Hmm.
I'm not even kidding.
Oh my.
Don't they have a place called like Kyle Rittenhouse House, like restaurant as well or something, like a Kyle Rittenhouse Chapel over there?
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
All right. I mean, if the Argentine people want to like come together and and have like some sort of solidarity or unification or whatever, they kind of have to like do it from their end. Like, yeah, last Wednesday was fun because we kept making fun of the Argentine people and Messi and Millier, but at the same time, it's like, in all fairness, they kind of have to like show that they're willing to be a part of it too. Because if they want to keep saying they're not, I mean, right now they've isolated themselves so much they don't even say that they're Latinos. They're in South America and they're like, oh, we're not European, we're not Latinos, we're like Europeans who speak Spanish. You know, I mean, it's kind of nuts. I mean, how can there be solidarity or unification or anything when they kind of practice a lot of isolationism themselves? And
Now whether whether the isolationism was intentional or by accident, that's to be determined. But yeah, Argentinians they need to get their craft together and cut this whole we're different in Latin America, we're much special. Like, no, you're not. Just cut that crap out. At least you know I don't know what to say to them because like they're like it's so bad. And that's the best way to describe it.
right. I mean, it's kind of weird how they're the only country in South, like they act like they're the only country in South America that has like pure European blood in it. And it's like, no, you're not. Every country in South America has like European and native ancestry. Like you're not that special.
Yeah, exactly. And as back to the anti-Argentina campaign. Yeah, Milei actually accuses U.S. Democrats of financing anti-Argentina campaign at World Cup. In comment, his critic have called a distraction. Argentina's far-right president also claimed Brazil and Mexico had funded the campaign. as if Mexico and Brazil is dealing with enough problems as it is, they decide they didn't come together and be like, let's piss off Argentina by launching a campaign against them. Like like Javier, you guys lost, and y'all didn't take y'all didn't take your losses as mature adults. That's on y'all.
No. I mean, when you have to basically cheat to win, this is what happens when you don't win. I mean, in '86, Maradona had to score an illegal goal to beat England and win the World Cup on their way to winning the World Cup. In 1990, when they went to the final, you had the Argentina national team basically drugging the Brazilian team, one of the Brazilian players. Yeah, but I don't know what type of drug it was, but they did that. And then in 2022, they won the World Cup in like the worst way possible, which is on freaking penalty kicks. That's like having Game 7 of the NBA Finals determined on a freaking 3-point shooting contest, or having the Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final determined on a shootout. And then 2026, with all the crap they got away with all the fouling and all that, and they still didn't win. So it's like, I'm not really sure that. So in soccer, you got that, but then in reality, you also have the fact that like it's weird. Like they think like they're on an island or something. It's like they don't even unify with their own like neighboring countries. It's really strange.
I was gonna say like I want you to look up Argentina Big N-word burgers. Like that's a real restaurant in Argentina.
All right. Evelina says, do you know how racist Peru, Chile, Ecuador, and others are? Yeah, I'm sure they all have their fair share of racism, but from what I've gathered, none of those countries, act like they're on their own isolated like piece of land either. I mean, you don't have freaking Peruvians or Chileans and Ecuadorians saying, oh, yeah, no, we're not South American, we're not Latino. Whereas the Argentines, they kind of do that. I mean, it's hard to unite with people that don't even want to unite with their own neighbors. Like, it's really weird. I mean, if someone wanted to be my friend, so if someone wanted to befriend me or whatever, and we lived in the same area, but they asked my but they saw that I was like pissing off all my neighbors, they'd probably be like, hey, what's wrong with this guy? So I mean, I don't know. It's not a good look for the Argentines. It really isn't.
Yeah, and except with the exception with the race and besides the racism, Argentinians are bougie as hell and evil. Like we get enough bouginess from Chile.
Oh my God. Melina's gonna go nuts. She's gonna really get angry.
Well, Evelina, she lives in Argentina.
Oh my God, this is gonna be funnier than last Wednesday.
District, maybe it's like different parts,
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is sad. Like, I want people to come together and unite, but people also gotta like make the effort too. Like, it can't just be, let's all come together, unite, but let's also give the middle finger to everybody and say we're better than everybody else, because that's kind of when you have issues. And that's not just an Argentina thing; that's everywhere in the country, but everywhere in the world, where people have to deal with that dilemma. But the Argentines just seem to be very a lot more upfront about it for some reason. I don't know why, but it's very weird. I mean, I don't get it. Like, I don't understand, like, how you live in how you're based in South America. You speak Spanish. You're of the same, like, ethnic, mix as the rest of your continent. And you're like, oh, no, we're not Latino. We're not a part of the diaspora. It's like, huh? I don't know. Dinar, do you understand that logic? Because I don't get it.
Can you repeat that again?
Like, how is it that the Argentines, they'd say they're in South America, they got a very similar Latino makeup, as the rest of the country. Part indigenous, but also European. They speak Spanish, but yet they say, "Oh, we're not a part of South America. Don't call us Latinos. We're our own, culture." It's like we're different from everybody else.
I would say it's basically based on history. When you look at the history of Argentina, they basically try to model themselves as a exceptionally European nation, which is why most of their buildings are modeled to assemble like European architecture, which is why there's been that. Not only did they not only wipe out indigenous population, but then replace them with basically a migration of immigrants, of European immigrants, mainly from places like Spain or Italy. It's basically and then they try to adopt it and create an art and create basically a weird mixed cultural identity that makes Argentina unique. But many critics say it basically created this mindset that somehow it makes that they create this the toxic mindset that somehow that Argentina is somehow not just better but racially but superior to their Latin American neighbors.
That whole European thing, about being civilized and other people aren't.
Yeah, 70. Well, I mean, 70% of Argentines are Europeans, so there is that aspect.
Yeah, and it's also, and even though I've actually talked to Argentinians, and they always tell me the same thing. Like, there's no racism in Argentina because Argentinians have never experienced racism. I'm like, is it because y'all don't have any black people? I was this close to asking that. I was so close to asking that. I'm like, oh, you haven't experienced racism. Is it because you haven't seen a black person?
Oh my god! I mean, I don't really know what to say about all that. All I know is that, considering most of them are Italian, and we know how much Italians love to preserve their culture. So.
Yeah. And like you pointed out, like then if you pointed out that I think you pointed out that when you listen to their names, the teams of the Argentinian team members' names,
yeah.
they don't come out as something coming from a Latin American country.
Yeah, it comes from the Mediterranean area, mainly Italy. I mean, you have like Lautaro Martinez, Enzo Fernandez, Lionel Messi, which is really ironic considering, like, I've seen more praise for Messi in India than Italy. Like, you'd think, as with Messi, you'd have people yelling, you'd have people, doing the Scarlata Twins skit, where they just yell about he's awesome because he's Italian. Messi's the GOAT. You know why? Why? Because he's Italian. He's Italian. He's Italian. Like, you would think you'd have more Italian people praising him, but apparently not. So I don't know. Argentina seems to be like its own isolated island, really.
Yeah, especially when Argentinians continue doing stupid stuff, and like that incident back in after Argentina defeated England, where they basically pull up a banner that's saying that the Maldives belong to the Argentinians, mainly representing the Falklands. And for those who don't know, there's been a skirmish. There's been a high dispute. There's been a high dispute between the UK and Argentina about who or whether or not who owns the Falkland Island, the Maldives or the Falkland Islands. It's a it's basically been a huge back and forth.
Yeah. Well, that's horrific. But if there's anything I've learned about soccer fans or football fans, is that when it comes to cheering on other teams, it's kind of nuts. I mean, I remember when England and Germany played each other, and like I don't know if it was an exhibition or UEFA match or whatever, a Euro match, and the England fans started chanting, "If you won the war, please stand up." So man, and I know with Croatia and Serbia, whenever those teams play each other, they're always reminded of like the Croatia-Serbia wars of the '90s. So I mean, I mean, soccer fans are very ruthless. They're very hooliganish. So
when it comes back to Argentina. And like I said, I think it's due to the mass immigration of Spanish and Italians, and Italians basically changed the Argentina's country's population and culture. Over time, this created a belief among many of Argentina's political and regular elites that the country was somehow different from the rest of South America. While many neighboring countries proudly embrace their indigenous and Afro descent heritage, Argentina increasingly promoted itself as the most European nation on the continent, and that attitude did not go down well with its neighbors. Across South America, Argentinians, especially and overly from Buenos Aires, developed a reputation of being basically, I would say, to put it very nicely, snobby and overconfident. And smarmy, arrogant, and overly confident, basically thinking that they're a level above everybody else in South America. And it basically resurfaced in 2021 when, like I mentioned, Argentina's president at the time, Alberto Fernandez, who I must add, he's supposed to be part of the center left, made a racist comment during a speech during a trip to Spain, saying the Mexicans came from the Aztecs, the Brazilians came from the jungle, but we Argentines came from the ships. And that comment sparked a huge backlash across Latin America, including gained criticism from people like Jair Bolsonaro.
That's rather ironic, considering how that works up.
Like, even someone as racist as Jair Bolsonaro, he even knows his limits.
Yeah, that's really messed up. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't really, I guess, I mean, I remember having this discussion with one of my cousins from back home, and they were like back in the old country, and he was asking me harsh, why is it that people from Argentina act like they're Spaniards? It's like, well, I mean, I was telling them they're Europeans who speak Spanish. What do you expect? I mean, 63% of them are of Italian descent, 7% of them are of Argentine descent, and whatever the other 9% are some different sort of European descent. So it's like, yeah, in other parts of Europe. So it's like, obviously they're very European. Like, they're not going to be very, they're not going to have very, Latin or South American tendencies, which is really weird because a lot of South America has a lot of Europeans there. But for some reason, the Argentines, it's like an extra step above it. I don't get it.
What bothers me is, it's this whole thing with, Europeanizing all these places instead of, the indigenous people, the indigenous culture. I mean, that seems to be the reason why you'd want to visit different places, the different cultures.
I guess if you want to have a nice, I guess if you're in South America and you want to eat a nice Neapolitan pizza, you should go to Buenos Aires. I mean, Outside of that, I don't really know what to say. I'm not going to say anything else. That's maybe everyone just starts speaking fluent Italian there. Yeah. But
Yeah,
I
I
don't
was.
know. It's weird.
Yeah, and after that after that, racist comment made by the president himself and the backlash that sparked across Latin America, it basically reinforced the idea that many Argentinians saw as culturally or even racially superior to their neighbors. And naturally, those feelings carried over into football, which is why we saw saw videos of 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 Enzo Fernandez and back in 2022 making and his team and other team members making a racist song, chanting a racist song against the black French athletes, footballers telling to go back to Africa. Why what or fans making chimp sounds, or French making or Argentinian fans making racist statements and acting like monkeys when they see a black person.
Yeah.
I think it was iShow Speed that they did too.
Yeah. I remember in 2022, I was watching that World Cup. I was like, when Argentina was up 2-0, I'm like, oh, God damn it, I hate these people. And then when Mbappe scored like 2 goals after the 80th minute to 4th section, I'm like, yeah, that's my dude. Yes, I love this. This is awesome. He's like my favorite football player. Even though he gets like such a bad rep in club league for some reason. Like when it comes to the national team, he's like the man. International soccer is awesome. When it comes to club soccer, it's like, oh, well, this guy's this guy's that. Although I'm starting to think some of that's racism and some of that's just other nonsense. But then anyhow, so I was happy, but then when I saw the way Argentina, I was like, ugh, why do I have to win on freaking penalty kicks? That's so stupid. So tacky as fuck. But yeah, no, that French national team, they're pretty cool. Especially with guys like Doe and Dembele and Mbappe. Those 3 are my favorites. And Maginan, their star goalkeeper. So, yeah. But no, when it comes to the Argentines, it's just, well, I mean, when you think you're European, that's how it goes. But you know what's ironic about the Argentines?
What?
I can't believe I'm about to say this. They're doing a better job. Like, that's the white nationalist joke. They're doing a better job, quote unquote, saving the white race in any of the Western countries. The Western countries. Because the rest of the white nationalists, the rest of the predominantly white countries, they're all gone. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of them, they're going to be a minority in their own homeland.
Yeah.
In about 20 years, there'll be more people that look like me and Denard living in America than people that look like Dolores, as crazy as this sounds.
Yeah, things are changing. And it's good. We need change.
Oh, speaking of hatred of the white man, Dolores, why did you leave your spouse? No, we're just kidding. We won't answer that tonight. But seriously, why do you hate white men? No. Anyhow, I have noticed that though I've seen a lot more race mixing now than I have in the last like 20 years. Like the last 10, 15 years, which is kind of cool.
It is. Well, the education system, and, more mixing of neighborhoods and stuff, people growing up together.
Right.
That's
true.
Yeah, we're starting to see more Black and brown people become from the population growing. Like I think there was a news came out in Georgia that said that the Black and brown population is now a majority. It's now the majority in Georgia, I believe.
Wow.
I mean, the black population being the majority in Georgia is one thing, but black and brown, that's really interesting. That tells you how much things have changed. Yeah.
Now, whether or not it changed the political, it changed the politics in Georgia, that's a completely different story. But
Yeah,
but yeah, this is like,
story, yeah.
but yeah, this is like, we're starting to see a huge shift, not just by population, but we're going to see we're seeing a huge shift in especially in the West. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Right. There is nothing wrong with that. And the thing is, for the people, like I went on this rant a few weeks ago on this very show. I think, Dolores, you were here for it. But here's the thing, though. The people that think there's something wrong with that aren't really doing anything to change that in a positive light either. Like, none of these, like, supposed white nationalists or white supremacists are doing anything to save their race outside of crying online or being a bunch of thugs, animals, and savages. You know, and on the rare exception, they're not doing anything positive to save the race at all. They're not having they're not having pure white babies. They're not helping. They're not building their own communities. They're not doing much of anything. And the one guy who is, no one else is helping them. So they're stupid. And anyone who complains about it's a retard. So that's it.
Yeah, mainly because I think it's because if they know that if they try to do that kind of thing in our neighborhood and where we live, we will not hesitate to mollywop their heads.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying even in like areas where it's predominantly not, as ethnic as the areas we're in, I'm saying they still don't do it. All they do is just complain.
Yeah. They complain, or some of them that they move elsewhere. I've talked about this before. Is that evangelical community? It's a sect of Christianity where they feel they're persecuted. So they felt that they were Christians. They've been persecuted in the U.S. They couldn't even speak Christianity here. It's so bad that they went. A group of them went to live in Russia, and they have their white community with their church and everything else.
How desperate are white Christians that they have to accept Russians as pure whites? For decades, they never did that. They never did that. And now they're like, hey, man, if you got white skin, you're in. Even if you're Slavic. Yeah, Polacks, we'll take you too. It's like, what?
I don't know where they feel this Christian persecution. So it's just this sect of people.
Yeah, here's the thing, though. They're not doing anything to save their race. And there's plenty of places where it's mainly white only in America. Yeah. Granted, it's not in any major city that's worth living in, or any state that's really worth a damn. But you know what? They exist. You can move there. You can live there. But they don't want to do it. They just want to go be on the internet and complain. So, whatever. That's their problem. That's not ours.
And that was the group that was, with Donald Trump. Mainly because he was speaking to them.
Now, Donald Trump doesn't even claim. Donald Trump brags about being Jewish, so he's not even their ally anymore.
Right, because he was speaking directly to them using code language and everything else.
When Mark Levin is visiting the White House saying, Donald, you're the most Jewish president we've ever had. It's true. It's true, Mark Levin. It's true. That's why my daughter Ivanka, I would date her. I would date my own daughter. That's why I slept with Stormy Daniels. She looked just like Ivanka.
That was so sick.
Yeah, imagine sleeping with someone that looks just like your, offspring. That's kind of fucked up.
That is freaky. That is creepy.
Yeah. Everyone's just calling Biden a pedophile for sharing with his daughter, and I'm just thinking, like, don't get me wrong, Biden probably is a pedophile because of the whole, like, him owning an island next to Epstein Island. But at the same time, it's like, Trump, if you're sleeping with a woman who looks just like your daughter, I'm sorry, you don't get to escape that. That's I'm sorry. That's kind of fucked up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Right. That's a little too. That's a little too fucked. Of all the women he could have slept with, you had to sleep with a lady that looks just like your daughter.
that is creepy.
I mean, damn. You can't put the all white women look-alike card either. That's not how that works, Donald.
And like
Man,
I know people. And yeah, I agree. I know people like always diss on Joe Biden. Or like, oh, our old first lady was old. She's old. Like yeah, at least Joe Biden is a 90%. At least Joe Biden is a 90% plastic, or his daughter. Or a daughter. So what? So you gotta look like work what you have.
yeah, I mean, Joe Biden and Joe Biden, the Bidens, I have no respect for. I think they're also horrible people, but I mean, it's kind of hard to be a Trump supporter and complain about like Democrats being pedophile, like Clinton and Biden, and dare I say Obama being pedophiles, when it's like your own side of the aisle does it too.
Yeah, they're both. They're both a problem.
Yeah, like it's hard for me to listen to you. Listen to a Republican yell about Obama and the $65,000 worth of hot dogs. Supposed they were hot dogs, but according to the FBI, it was code for something else. Go on and on about that, but then ignore the fact that Trump will literally sleep with the woman who looks just like his daughter.
Yeah, Donald. I think it was Donald who said, it even went on live camera and said, "If Ivanka were my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her."
Yeah, he's also said that too on numerous shows.
And yeah, that's probably true. And the fact that's probably true is what makes him so horrifying.
And
the fact that he was pals with the Clintons for how many decades? And we all know Bill Clinton's a pedophile. And Donald Trump had no problem palling around with him for about 30-something years. But, this is all old knowledge anyway. I feel like a dinosaur rehashing any of this. I really do.
Yeah.
So basically, our last two presidents have either slept with their daughters or fantasize about sleeping with their daughters. That's fucking wonderful.
Or at some point, did drugs in the White House.
Yeah, that's great.
I told it to my grandma and be like, I don't believe that. Like, oh please, you don't think George H.W. Bush didn't? Come on, people, grow up. He was high when he got that picture taken.
Outer Timber Company, nuclear. I don't drink alcohol anymore. I got a new candy now. Yeah, I mean, of course, Bush was doing drugs.
I meant Bush Senior, not Bush Junior.
Oh yeah, he's even worse. That guy's got blood on his hair. That guy probably killed John F. Kennedy. Yeah. That guy was the director of the CIA. Was either working for the CIA or was a director of the CIA when Kennedy got killed. So he's got blood on his hair. He's like far. That guy was scary. That's why they called him Herbert the Pervert. So that's not even. Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, you can find a video of George H.W. Bush when he was giving those televised address to the American people in the White House in the Oval Office. The one I'm talking about the president. He was doing that, and he was basically doing it on camera, holding a bag of crack cocaine. You're trying to
read my lips, no new taxes. Read my lips, no new taxes. That probably explains why he was speaking so fast. Read my lips, no new taxes.
Yeah, it was like this is crack cocaine found by someone who sold it near the White House. It isn't looking as candy. I'm like, boy, what candy are you eating?
Yeah, that's pretty disturbing. I mean, I remember I remember that, but then you also have to remember his son was a complete junkie too.
Yeah,
so true. He was probably procuring drugs for him.
Yeah, that's true. It's probably our fault.
Yeah.
It was our fault. It's probably it's mostly the American people's fault for not asking what he does with the bag after the camera's off.
Yeah, well, in those days, people didn't even know how to put that sentence together.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Let's be honest, because back then people were extremely high on drugs.
Of course. Yeah, people
So
did more
why
drugs
did
than
we
that.
have? Yeah, like why do we think? Why do you think we have so many great movies back then?
Yeah, they were high on drugs. They were drunk as fuck, and they enjoyed life. Now, people aren't drinking as much. They're not doing as many drugs. Now it's some other shit they're on. Now it's all pharmaceuticals. So, I don't know.
Yeah, it's no fun.
No fun at all. No one's fun anymore. Except for this show. This show was fun tonight.
Yes.
I feel bad for Evelina.
We try, right?
Yeah.
I feel bad for Evelina. She's probably blocking the page now.
No,
She's probably get away from us. I hate you all. Stop picking on us.
I'm like, if you can get, if you can guess the last, the last 10 presidents and presidents, which of the last 10 presidents do you definitely know it was who actually did drugs in the White House?
Wait a second. Evelina has an update here. She says Malay has cut fire prevention programs. And then she brought up out there are fires in France as well. Yeah. There's fires, and there's droughts, and it's not the time to cut fire prevention programs.
But yeah, man, I remember reading that Millier is like a hardcore libertarian. So that would explain why he probably cut the fire department or cut the fire prevention programs. But yeah, we're talking about people who did drugs in the White House. Clinton, Bush Jr.
I heard Kamala Harris did.
We're
talking about presidents.
I mean, maybe she did drugs off a president. I don't know. I mean, who knows? I'm just saying. I mean, if she was willing to do it, if she was willing to, hook up with Willie Brown, why wouldn't she be willing to hook up with, a Clinton or something?
Because they said that this is what a rumor patrol has it. Rumors were saying they talked about cocaine being left in the White House that was found in the White House after Biden left.
Yeah, Hunter Biden.
That it was Harris's cocaine.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me how incoherent she sounded during her TV appearances. That really wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, I'm saying. Well, I was like, that explains why Joe Biden is always so drowsy.
Yeah, probably.
Probably ran out of his presidential medicine, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, sometimes you cross the line, sometimes you're out of line, sometimes you have no more lines. So.
Well, I was going to say where Biden was concerned. I mean, and it's the same situation with Trump. They're too old to be in the position, to be in the position they are.
Yeah.
That Biden has the position he was, and because you look at Barack Obama, you see how he aged, and he was young when he got in there. I mean, it ages.
Yeah. But the question that I'd have to ask is, would anything change? Would anything have changed if, Donald Trump resigned 6 months ago and JD Vance took over? Would anything ever truly change policy-wise?
I don't think so. I think it'll be much. I think JD Vance will be much more. I don't know if I'm right, but I think JD Vance will be much more subtle than Donald Trump. I don't know if that's my personal guess, but it's going to be the same. It's going to be the same policy, but with a different face. But like you said, Harsh. I think it was Harsh or Dolores who said it. But JD Vance is not very charismatic. I mean, he only like you say, he only rose off the backs of Donald Trump. And that line can only get you as far as you can. Yeah, and we've seen that multiple times with especially with the resignation, with the firing of Christine Nones and Pam Bondi. So two of the most loyalist, Trump loyalists in the cabinet, and Pam Bondi was basically thrown under the bus and thrown under the bus and was fired, despite being extremely loyal and trying to help Trump with the cover up. Like I said, the Trump loyalty can only get you as far as Trump lets you, and then as soon as you serve out your purpose, he'll make sure to cut your strings.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Oh, what does Evelina says? She says, just remembered, meaning to ask Hosh, what did he mean the other day when he said China wants to be Israel and Russia the U.S.?
Hmm.
Hosh? Well, I guess Hosh must have stepped away from.
I think so. They, this is like every day it becomes great. It just becomes crazier. Hmm?
Because, you know something? I just had somebody comment or just wrote something, and it says in Peru in 1992, democratically elected President Alberto Fujimori staged what they called an autogol, a self coup. He dissolved Congress, suspended the Constitution, purged the judiciary, and critically suspended regional governments and stripped municipalities of key powers, centralizing control under presidential, often military backed appointees. He says, think about this for a moment.
Yeah, doesn't. Yeah, I think that's a important thing that I think that's one thing that people seem to leave out that leave out, and why people consider Fujimori as a dictator, because he basically circumvent the political stage in the politics in Peru, and basically replace it with his own with basically with his own. In fact, the current constitution of Peru is basically designed for for people like the Fujimoris to
Oh.
basically consolidate power.
Oh.
And so yeah, but yeah, but like I said, it can. But like I said before, that power dynamic can only get you as far as you can, especially. And so we're gonna have to see if it and how far it will take Fujimori before she might end up becoming the next line of presidents removed.
Yeah, we'll have to see.
But like I said, it's worth the point. It's worth pointing out the dynamics. Like I said, like yeah, even though the president won, the far right won the presidency, they they end up struggling again some things passed through the legislative branch, which is why then like explain which is why do you think during his first during Malay's first year in office, he mainly ruled by decree. He
Mm.
mainly pushed his policy through decrees, and and not through the Congress. Hmm?
Yeah. Oh,
That's
Evelina says here, she says, yes, and Fujimori also sterilized hundreds of indigenous women.
yeah. I think I exactly, and I think I pointed that out in our last and during our discussion about Peru's general election, that her father
Yeah.
and that and even though there's been viable proof and evidence the evidence that Fujimori did sterilize them. Um, they and foot Keiko basically straight up denied the, any wrongdoing or or worse, denied any form any deny any sterilization at all. So it's just it's like she's it's like she's trying to create this basically this image that the economically everything was great during her father's time. When maybe on the surface, but when you stretch deep and look at the insides of Peru, it actually is not as great as they claim to be.
Right, and for her, you know, she was part of the inner clique, so she wasn't affected by things.
Yeah, and it's also I think it's also important to point out that Fujimori was first lady, and he only was the first lady, and the only
Yeah.
reason she got that title is because her mother actually um divorced Alberto after presenting allegations of torture and abuse, which surprisingly Keiko Fujimori sided with her father and denied any wrongdoing, any of her father's wrongdoing.
Oh, and that's pretty serious. Denying torture.
Yeah, but what can you say? Like father, like daughter.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's going to be running. She's no doubt going to run, trying to possibly try to imitate the economic good greatness that she claimed that was under her father's rule. And as for security, we're going to have to see how she does it. But like I said, it's many critics fear this because her policies will lead to mostly a democratic backsliding.
Hmm. And like you said, it was the outsiders are the ones that got her elected.
Exactly.
Right, they get her elected, and meanwhile, the people that are in the country, they're gonna have to deal with all the shit.
Yeah, and I'm like, can there just be can there just be a law that anyone presiding in any civilian who has to vote when has to vote inside inside the country,
Right.
I get the sense that it allows the embassies and consulates allow the citizens to vote abroad, but it can only but this can they can only go both it can only go a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen many times there's been a huge pattern of exterior votes voting with the right.
Yeah. Okay, and Evelina says she'll probably have to govern by decree like her father, since she's going to get a lot of backlash. Hmm.
Especially like properly, especially like I pointed out, she does not have the votes. She doesn't have the votes or enough votes in the Congress. So she's definitely most likely going to rule by decree.
Yeah.
And since that the president and the Congress simultaneously get a vote in the same election year and the same election day, she it's not going to be a midterm. There won't be a midterm election, and to help consolidate her power, like what happened in Argentina. It's going to the Congress is going to say it's going to stay until the next election.
Hmm.
Actually, so she's gonna be trying to figure out how to get her policies through.
Yeah, and she's buddy, like I said, she's buddy with Trump and Netanyahu. So
And Malay,
MLA. I don't know.
which is even more worse.
It's a bad group of people she's surrounding herself with.
I'm not surprised.
Right, she's a neoliberal, so
Yeah, she's a conservative neoliberal. So of course she's going to govern like a she's so that's how she's going to govern. Hmm?
hmm
But I think she's going to. I think she's going to more. Going to govern more like a Jose Antonio Cas than she is as Malay. Because even though she's best friends with Malay, she knows she's much more careful when it comes to policies. Policies, and she has and is also worth pointing out. She's been very open to joining the Shields of America.
The Shields of America?
Yeah.
Huh. Oh no, that whole region.
Hmm.
It's just sad. It's just really, really, really sad.
Yeah, but let's be, but but it's what like I said, the the left has a much better chance of govern have a much better chance of stopping this. Mainly
Okay.
because mainly because I believe they actually have the votes and them and their movement is not is actually they're no longer the left is no longer the fringe in Latin America. They're more mainstream now.
Right.
Cut places like cut parties like the historic pact in Colombia or the or the JP in Peru or or others like um or others in Latin America and others across Latin America. They're no longer the left is no longer a fringe group. It's more mainstream, and they do have a lot of leverage.
Okay.
Leverage. So, and not to mention the people in unlike the United States, the American unlike the United States, the people are actually much more organized,
Right.
and that hurt does, and I'm sure it hurts, but it's and it should.
Mm-hmm. Well, well, it's good that they're very organized. It is. Because, and I would say because they know what the right does every time it comes in. They know what the United States does, and they don't want that.
Exactly. Exactly. Now now the people may have voted by domestic policy, but they sure don't just they sure don't agree with how they want the government how their foreign policy, especially considering even though these far right presidents have much are much more unconditionally loyal to Israel and Netanyahu, the public aren't. The dynamic there's a huge shift in Latin America despite the government being on the right. Many people when it comes to Israel Palestine, many the civilians are actually much more pro-Palestinians.
Right. Yeah, but the indigenous, they know the Palestinians are the indigenous, and it's just Israel's just a U.S. base over there, really. The U.S. just, and I was thinking about the other night, or just basically I've been thinking about it, where Israel is concerned, because I remember when it was brought up before, when you had U.S. politicians saying if there wasn't an Israel, we'd have to create it. Israel, is like a big base, a military base. So really, the U.S. wanted that region. They want the region. It's like they want Israel as their military base. And if it wasn't Israel, they would have put somebody there, or they would have managed to create their base there, no matter what. They it's the oil-rich region of the world, and they want to be a part of it, or they want to control it.
It's completely it's it's a weird dynamic and dynamic happening. Like they talk about Like we hear the news talking about how the United States, how Latin America is shifting to the right. Maybe yeah, maybe not. Maybe the government, maybe the president, but we don't see, but not by the, but we don't really see that from the people. The
No.
people they're much more to the left than that, especially when it comes to especially when it comes to Palestine. They're much more to the left.
Hmm. Right, because it's their interest, to preserve their country. The left is the one that's gonna, stand with the people. The right's what with all the corporations and destroying the land.
Exactly.
Okay. Is there anything else I
Oh
think we.
yeah. We haven't. There's that last thing to talk about. I think the billionaire, the Bill Ackman, considering a run for New York City mayor.
Oh yeah. I'm like it's kind of early for that, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But Zionists, they like to try to be like steps ahead
Mm.
and steps ahead. Yeah, Bill Ackman is one of the biggest has been the biggest critics of Zoran Mandami, pushing pushing a campaign chop and even push dumping millions of dollars towards Andrew Cuomo's campaign. Even pushing people like Eric Adams and Curtis Sliwa to drop out. And look, critic you can say what you want about Curtis Sliwa. He's a Republican, he's a conservative, but his heart's in the right place, and he's
Right.
actually, and we would actually see him on Piers Morgan, and he's actually much more critical of the state of Israel. Israel. So not only that, Bill Ackman is actually much more um, it's actually much more. It's actually much more. It's shown to be much more loyal to the state of Israel, and he's been and like I said, he's been the biggest critic of Zoran Mandami, and now there's been even calling him a threat to NYC.
So ridiculous.
and and the top 10, and it's worth noting that the top 10 of Bill Ackman's holding is Uber, being
Hmm.
Brooksfield, RBI, Amazon, Chipotle, Google, Hilton, 8 Hertz. I and those are just a few. I can just that's just a few. But now he's actually now considering a run for mayor.
Mm.
Yeah, because that's exactly what New York City wants, a more a billionaire running for office.
It's, and all they care about is the billionaires. Mandani connects with the people.
Yes, which is why he was able to win the primaries as well as win the generals, despite the fact that all the establishments basically stacked everything against Mondami in both the primary and the general, with the backing by backing Andrew Cuomo twice, and and this and it's amazing that these people will never learn. And it's shown that they refuse to learn that
Hmm.
they refuse to learn that if you run on populist policies like universal health care or affordable housing and cheaper grocery prices, it's a fewer grocery prices. It's it will get you elected. Oh, and also stop supporting genocide. It's going to get you. It's going to get you support.
Exactly.
But no, they rather. But these people rather run on the platform of protecting their paychecks. Mm-hmm.
New York City's doing so much better with Mandani.
Yeah, and you can. And there, yeah, and like I said, there is some critics about Zoran Mandami, criticism about Zoran Mandami. And legit criticism, but you cannot deny things are actually much. It has been doing. It's becoming much better in New York City than it has under people under politicians like Rudy Giuliani or Bill De Blasio or Mike Bloomberg or even Eric Adams.
Oy vey, are we talking about our favorite tiny hat leaders? Bill de Blasio, Eric Adams, Mayor
Eric,
Bloomberg.
yeah, Eric
Yeah.
Adams. Yeah, he was pathetic when he was governor.
I got a question. How come these people are supposed to be Jewish, but they never observe Shabbat?
Eric Adams. He was speaking. This is what got me. He spent his time after October 7th going to different synagogues in New York City and talking.
Right.
And it's like there's other people there, and he didn't care about the people that had family over in Gaza. He didn't. It's
Well, why would he? Why would he, Dolores? He only cares about his chosen people. He doesn't care about anyone else. If he did, it would be considered anti-Semitic.
he cared just about his wallet.
You got to remember now. If he didn't care about, if he cared about anyone else, it'd be worse than a Holocaust. Remember, oy vey, Dolores.
And then you look at what he did. The protest at Columbia University and everything.
All right.
And look, I would say this. I would say this for New York City about two things about New York City, and that New York City has never been known for their abilities to elect good mayors. And I would say that Mandami has become exceptional. And I would even go far. I even go far by saying they used to have a habit from going bad to worse. Than worse, like because we managed to go from being ashamed of de Blasio's weak leadership, where he let the NYPD bully him so bad they locked up his own daughter for protesting and protesting their brutality, and he didn't do anything to electing NYPD's personal bottom bitch, Eric Adams, a man so corrupt that he became the first New York City mayor to be federally indicted on corruption charges after stealing millions of public funds and doing illegal bribes and deals with Turkish government officials.
I got to ask you a question about that in regards to Eric Adams. Like, obviously, Eric Adams, whatever, crooked politician, piece of shit, whatever. But my question is, like, do you think that was related at all to, like, when he started criticizing, like, Biden's and Trump's, Biden and Harris's immigration policies, or do you think that was a separate when he got arrested?
I think it's mostly separate because Eric Adams has been under investigation before running for mayor. So this has been going on, especially
that long.
Yeah, especially.
Jesus.
I would say the Turkish government thing. I think that did happen during his time as New York City mayor. But I think that was separate when it came to. But I believe it was separate from Biden's immigration policy.
Because I remember like a month after he started criticizing Biden's immigration policy, how it was damaging New York City, all of a sudden, boom, he got investigated. But I don't know. That could just be coincidental.
Yeah. But it's also worth pointing out. It's also worth to point out that that he was also then Eric Adams was also investigated for sexual harassment and assault.
Yeah, that's can't say I'm surprised by that. You
Yeah.
know, let me read this comment by Evelina. Just remembered meaning to ask ask Harsh what did he mean the other day when he said China wants to be Israel and Russia the U.S. Well, I mean, I think China wants to control the world the way Israel does, and I think Russia wants to have the military influence that the U.S. does. Because I believe that that's a personal opinion. Because I just believe that power vacuums exist, and if one got if it's evacuated, someone else will take over. But I could be wrong.
I would say China is has a much more subtle way of doing it.
Yeah,
I think Deng Xiaoping actually pointed out actually once famously said that China should hide its strength and buy its time. And when Xi Jinping came to power, he basically swept it under the rug and basically gone full out. Everyone needs to know about us, and we need to know about the world. But he did it in a way that everyone wants to do business with China.
Yeah, it's someone would call it economic warfare. That's kind of what they did for about 15 years.
Yeah, and no one is stupid enough other than Trump to try to go on a trade war with China.
I know, it's stupid.
Yeah, he really is. But what do you expect from someone who sleeps with a woman that looks just like his daughters?
Really, I thought who, Melania?
No, Stormy Daniels and Ivanka.
Oh,
The same.
I was about to say, because Melania looks more like a Goodwill Barbie doll.
That may be so, but at the end of the day, he cheated on Ivana Trump with Marla Maples. He cheated on Marla Maples with Melania, and he cheated on Melania Trump with the lady who looks like his daughter Ivanka. So, but Stormy Daniels looks pretty similar to Ivanka. So,
Yeah,
and that's all you need to know about all that. But yeah, no. But how dare you praise Mamdani Denard? You're an anti-Semite for saying that. That sounds worse than a Holocaust. You know what I mean?
And you're part of the Epstein class, so what are you gonna say about that?
That's anti-Semitic. You're an anti-Semite for saying that. Don't you people understand? You should be happy that we're the reason people like you get to have your culture and your civil rights.
You keep saying that. I don't think you know what it means or read actual history books.
The history books came from us. What are you talking about? What's entertainment?
No, we write our own history books, so you're not going to take credit for something you didn't do.
That's without our attorneys, you guys wouldn't have had any rights in this country. Don't you understand?
Oh no, how we ever cope?
2,000. It was promised to us for 2,000 years.
Oh no, how we ever cope?
We should do a show next time where we just start speaking in that accent.
Yeah, I still can't get over that about the mayoral race that over 40% of New Yorkers wanted Andrew Cuomo back in power.
I have no idea. That creeps me out.
Yeah, I'm starting to think people are either retarded or elections are rigged. I mean, I would have at least understood if it was a different Republican different guy than Cuomo, but Cuomo's is gross. I mean, how can you be forced to resign because of sexual assault, and how can you be forced to resign because of how you treated the elderly during COVID, but then 4 years later be good enough to run for office? That doesn't make any sense.
I know. It's so ridiculous. And the worst thing is, many of the Republican Party actually was trying to convince Curtis Sliwa to drop out so their votes can go to Andrew Cuomo. And yeah, and they actually blamed they blamed it's Curtis Republicans actually blamed Curtis Sliwa for not dropping out.
Which is so stupid because Curtis Lewa would have been the perfect Republican nominee for them, and he would have actually been more palatable than freaking Cuomo. I mean, yes, Lewa is a schmuck who's a glorified narc, but at least that's better than freaking Cuomo.
Como with the talk, getting on every day. Well, we know how COVID got here. It got on a plane from China and all this other stuff. And saying all these things was causing more problems for the Chinese American communities by saying that this COVID got on a plane from China. I mean, it was just so ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm like, why? I just can't understand why or how in 2025 that New Yorkers were actually even considering entertaining the idea of training a corrupt, disgraced mayor with a corrupt, disgraced former governor.
I don't get it either because I mean the way he treated the elderly during COVID in 2020, his policies caused a lot of innocent people to die that didn't need to die.
And it was so and it was to the extent where where President Joe Biden had to basically force Cuomo to resign after New York Attorney General Letitia don't F around James released a massive investigation that revealed that while serving as governor, he sexually harassed at least 11 women, including a state trooper.
Yeah, what got me was with the different people with COVID, he was putting them in the nursing homes.
Oh yeah, that was actually effed up.
Yeah.
And he's been going around being like he's this great inspiration leader of when it came to the worst to the worst health crisis in America. Like meanwhile, over 42,000 people died in New York, more than any other state.
Mm-hmm. And there's Como acting like he's Mr. Knowledge when it came to COVID.
Yeah, and there are people who was like, and I literally had family members who literally became homosexuals and who were ready to jump me for going after their boy Cuomo. It's a weird it's a weird thing. And let's not forget about the fact that Cuomo only became part of the political spectrum because of his father. Because he bragged about being the father of the former governor, who, by the way, he was his own campaign. Andrew Cuomo was his father's campaign manager. Campaign manager. This is why I have a problem with nepo babies.
Nepo babies. Then he names the Tappan Zee Bridge after his father.
Yeah, after Andrew Cuomo himself became governor.
Yeah. That's the most New Yorkers. We call it the Tappan Zee Bridge because that's what it's always been. It's been the Tappan Zee Bridge.
Like it's so like New York is weird. I'm sorry for New Yorkers who are listening to this, but New York is weird.
Mm-hmm.
And Kathy Hochul is not even good. It's not even a good governor either.
No, she's not. From what I understand.
She's basically governing basically the same way as Andrew Cuomo did.
Yeah,
which
the
is
neoliberal.
Yeah, which is no surprise considering she was the lieutenant governor under Andrew Cuomo.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Evelina says an American LNG tanker was just hit by a drone at an Egypt port. The war is expanding. Yeah, I heard about a drone at the Egypt port.
Did they say who hit the tanker?
Not yet. It just says that it was hit by a drone. I haven't heard anything more about that.
Hmm. A drone, which is either and so either it could be so either my guess is either the either one of either the Houthis, Hezbollah, or Israel. Though I'm not sure whether or not the Houthis actually have drones. I know they have missiles, but I don't know they have drones.
Hmm.
So it has to be either. So it has to be either. It's my kind of guess is Israel. Hmm.
It says that, yeah, she says they are investigating.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, Israel's been wanting to escalate. It's been pushing to escalate.
Yeah, and many Israeli politicians and rabbis have actually been, pushing this idea that Israel might end up going to war with Turkey and Egypt because going to war with Egypt worked out well the first time.
And we've said this to people. We've talked about it on the air with the whole Greater Israel plan. Egypt, you should be doing something where Gaza's concerned. You standing there like, being friends with Israel, it's not going to do you any good. Yeah, you're all going to end up, I don't know. Like I said, well, Egypt has the ability to fight, but
I get that. I get why the Lebanese government was doing because they were like they're trying to bring about stability.
mm,
Many Lebanese but most Lebanese in Lebanon, they do not support Israel, considering the fact that Israel is the one who's been bombing them
mhm.
relentlessly for all in the first place.
Yeah, well, when it comes to Lebanon, 'cause I think that phone call became noticed with Lindsey Graham when he wanted them to go full force, wanted the U.S. to get involved with Lebanon, and Netanyahu's thing is incrementally. They want Lebanon, but they're going to work it incrementally, not be so like the way, of course, Lindsey Graham wanted. Just blast them. That's Lindsey Graham's was his mindset.
And now he's dead, so score one for us.
Exactly. Hopefully, a decent Democrat takes. I don't know. Well, his sister's there now, but after that, you'd hope the state would change.
Yeah, my I would say um, given that the South Carolina hasn't have an elected Democrat for quite a long time, I don't know if that's going to be possible. But I was say this the um, the South sorry that Lindsey Graham's death is basically many people agree that Lindsey Graham's death has basically changed the odds for Democrats in the general election.
Hmm. And
Uh,
there was rumors too with his death. That the Mossad was behind it.
yeah, I heard those rumors,
Yeah, like a message for Trump.
but like but it doesn't make any sense. Why would it go this effort to take out one of their biggest allies in the Senate?
Yeah, wasn't a war that he doesn't love. But it's interesting. Everything starts up again after Netanyahu steps in. He steps into the White House, and there we go, back at war again.
Definitely.
Yeah, they'll obviously protest. Calling him a war criminal and for him to be arrested and all. I don't know. It's just sickening that he was allowed in this country. But then again, who's the president? You know, when you have the Congress and everybody else.
True.
And so why would the federal government arrest him? You know,
Yeah,
what
they
he
don't want, they,
hit
they
the
don't want to get that.
Philippines.
I'm guessing they don't want to be the type be the person who. I was kind of disappointed when Manami came out and he said like he's not going to arrest Netanyahu. I get why he said it,
Hmm.
but it's also disappointing considering he campaigned on that.
He campaigned on it, yes, and then he can't do it.
I get why he said it because it's basically he can't in New York City can't technically arrest a sitting leader, a U.S. A foreign leader. But yeah, it kind of it disappointed a lot of people because I mean everyone wants to see that man in handcuffs.
Right. And you just don't know. Like the next time he comes in September, you know, and he's going to be in New York. Um, you know, the protest and just everything else. Is he going to feel safe? I mean, we know he's going to have his security around him and everything, but hmm, see the dynamics there.
Yeah,
Yeah, you know, New Yorkers especially, they want to see him get arrested. I know everybody else. I should say everybody else does, but New Yorkers are just, you know, I've been saying it. Hello, Nandini. Pal Malik says hello. Hello. Thank you for commenting. Okay, we got anything else to say?
uh, I think that's covered everything.
Yeah, I think so too. Got anything to say, Harsh? Guess he stepped away. Okay, I guess that's it for tonight. I just saw this post here. It says that Netanyahu and Lindsey Graham conspired to use sex allegations against the ICC chief to delay the warrants. I mean, it sounded like, you know, it was a bunch of made up stuff or bullshit because, and of all people, Netanyahu, you know, he's a piece of shit. But that seems to be what the Mossad does and everything else. You know, they always use sex allegations.
Yeah, it's a Instagram has always been Israel's biggest backer, and unfortunately, another one will just replace him.
Hmm. At least we're seeing people in the U.S. More educated where Israel is concerned and what's been going on with this government. You
Yeah,
know,
that's true.
Gaza woke up a lot of people because you know, since my show began a couple of years ago, we were talking about it. We were talking about, you know, what Israel was doing in the West Bank, you know, in East Jerusalem and Gaza, and you know, we had our audience and all, but I'd have to say October 7th is what really woke people up and paid attention and looked into the history of the region. So a lot of people became more aware, and you see that in the U.S. that people are People are standing with the Palestinians. They're like, wait, we didn't know all this. I mean, this is horrible what the Zionists are doing to the Palestinians. It just, the actions in the region, they're paying more attention to it.
Definitely.
Hmm. Okay, well, I'm going to call it a night. And not sure when I'm going to be back with Madeline. Last, it could be Friday or Saturday. I'm not really sure. And I want to thank Denarde and Harsh for being here with me. And also, Wayne was here. We had a good show tonight, a lot of discussion. And we'll just, like I said, we'll be doing more shows on these topics. And let's just continue sharing information about what's going on in the world. It's so important to provide information to people, to share different viewpoints. And, I know people are running the legislatures, you know, their leadership, and their writing and doing, petitioning and doing the best they can. And people are protesting. They're sharing information on social media, you know, waking up people, sharing what's going on in the world. It's so important. And, let's continue doing what we're doing. All the family, and we just want to, we want peace in the world. We want what's best for people. We want everybody to have a good health care system, to have, a home, a job, have good food, just the basics in life. You're not asking for much, and we just want peace in the world. What do you got to say, Denarde?
Yeah, I agree with you. We need to continue, spreading knowledge, continue spreading peace, continue showing up, and continue educating people.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and that's about it. I think we're going to close out the show. Thank you, everybody, and Denardi again. Yeah, he'll be here next week, or depending on what's going on in the world, we may be back sooner. He may be back sooner, but usually Wednesday night's Denardi's night. And Harsh, I don't know if Harsh is still with us or not. Yes, he's not. If you'd like to support the show, I have a Venmo account at Dolores Pierce, Cash App, $ Dolores Pierce, and Buy Me a Coffee, D Pierce. And thank you again for watching this show and for being with us, and thank you for your comments. I was going to say, Evelina, thank you for your comments. And let me see if there's other comments here. Okay, and Ryder, thank you for your comments. And who else commented? Yeah, thank you everybody that commented. And have a good night, everybody, or a good day, wherever you live. Some people are having morning, some having afternoon, and some of us are going to sleep soon. Okay, thank you and good night. Peace out. Free Palestine.